Hello, everybody. Welcome to This Week in Google. Coming up next, I'm Jason Howell filling in for Leo Laporte. We've got Ant Pruitt, we've got Paris Martineau, and we have Jeff Jarvis on this episode. We had a lot to talk about. Finally a resolution in Canada's Online News Act regarding news and Google. Amazon unveils its AI chatbot that they called Q for some reason. OpenAI tries hard to not unveil its AI product called, Q Star. I don't know what it is about the letter Q. And Black Friday, perfect for dish trays. All that and more coming up next.
Podcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
This is Twig. This Week in Google episode 744, recorded Wednesday, November 29th, 2023. Giant red ties. This episode of This Week in Google is brought to you by our friends at IT Pro TV, now called ACI Learning. ACI's new cyber skills is training that's for everyone, not just the pros. Visit go.acilearning.com/twit. Twit listeners can receive up to 65% off an IT Pro Enterprise Solution plan after completing their form. Based on your team's size, you'll receive a properly quoted discount tailored to your needs. And by Mylio. Mylio Photos is a smart and powerful system that lets you easily organize, edit, and manage years of important documents, photos, and videos in an offline library hosted on any device. Check out their limited time holiday gift bundle for a 25% discount on Mylio Photos Plus at mylio.com/twit25. Hello, everybody. It's time for This Week in Google. I'm Jason Howell, filling in for Leo Laporte. I promise you, he'll be back next week, and how he returns will surprise you. No, actually, that's not true. He's just going to be sitting in his Dr. Evil chair doing the show like nothing ever happened. I promise you that. Really good to be here, joined here in the studio, Ant Pruitt. What's up, Ant?
Hello, everybody. Hello, Mr. Howell.
Nice to see you right next to me.
Nice to see you.
And what is it? What is it? You look a little older today.
Yeah,
look here.
What's going on up here?
What could it be?
Look here, man.
What is it?
I had glasses. I lost my glasses. I had to order new glasses, but I need to be able to see this dadgum rundown in front of me. So I went around the corner and grabbed some readers. And this is an interesting experiment. And I think the only way to wear them is to put them down on my nose. So
Which
when I
just
look
enhances the experience.
When I look over the top, everything looks normal-ish, but I can actually read now with them down like this. So yeah, I'll own the old man-ish card today.
Okay, all right. Well,
oldish man, oldish man.
Readers. I have parrot readers too, but I hate wearing glasses. So even though I need to wear them, I refuse to. Damn it. Also joining us, Jeff Jarvis. Hello, sir.
Hello.
Those are not readers, though. What you are wearing, those are everyday.
Those are just old man eyes.
Face.
Those are permanent glasses.
Old man eyes.
Well, it's good to see you, sir. And of course, Paris Martineau. What's up, Paris?
If I wasn't wearing these glasses, I would be unable to see the screen 2 feet in front of me. So I guess they're everything.
They're everything. So that means, so are you farsighted then? Is that what that means? Or are you just
I think I'm
nearsighted?
both now. I'm so nearsighted and I spend so much time looking at screens that it has just transitioned into I'm generally sight challenged.
Yeah, you're unsighted at this point.
I'm unsighted. I've always said that if like a zombie apocalypse happened, I'd probably die quickly, not because of a lack of survival skills or gumption, but because if you just like crack my glasses, I'm done.
And that's it. Oh, that's true.
It.
Right? All it takes is like one battle, and sure, you won, but your glasses are broken. You spend the rest of your life wandering the earth blind, basically.
Yep.
It
would not be a long rest of my life, honestly.
Right.
There have been times where I've lost my glasses in my home and I'm like, I'm done. This is it.
Yeah. I'm pretty blind without glasses. I opt for contacts, but I could probably see about that far in front of me with pure sharpness. And then any further than that, I mean, Jammer B, where you're sitting right now, you'd be a blurry mess. You'd be a smear to me. So I guess we're all sight challenged on this panel.
We are.
We've figured that one out. Good to be here. And, I tried my best. I promise you I tried to put together like a nice bulky Google block to start the show with. And it's really kind of sad looking at it. There's just not a whole lot here, but I'm going to commit to the bit. Let's start. We'll get it out of the way and then we'll get to the other stuff.
On this show? Wow, bold of you.
It's the bit we've been doing for 744 shows.
I always try when I'm sitting in place with Leo. I'm like, you know what? It's like Google's in the name. Let's talk a little bit about Google. And sometimes Google rewards us.
This is true.
Sometimes Google does.
Google's in the name for now.
Yeah. What was the name that you came up? Was it This Week in General? Was that?
Yeah,
I think that's the name someone came up with. Someone yelled that name.
This Week in Everything.
Chamber P.
This Week in General and This Week in Everything were the two that I remember.
Well, This Week in Everything, that doesn't work because everything doesn't.
Then we got to change
G.
the feeds and stuff.
Yeah.
So I'm fine with This Week in General myself.
Honestly, This Week in General isn't bad.
No, it's not. Although it kind of have like a wartime quality to it, like This Week in General.
I mean, we could kind of have a wartime quality.
I'm fine with
That's
that.
true.
I'm down to battle.
Okay. Well, for this
pivot
moment,
to stealing valor. Sorry, continue.
for this moment in time, it's still This Week in Google. And to that end, we've got 5 pretty quick stories to talk about. Then we'll get to the rest of the show. Actually, the top story, I think, is very immediate. This just happened not too long ago. Google has reached a deal with Canada involving its online news act, kind of the link tax. And Google was, for quite a while saying it wasn't going to pay. Of course, Meta did this and kind of pulled out, right, as far as news is concerned in the EU. Google is threatening to do so as well.
In Canada.
Sorry, in Canada. My apologies.
It's all the same. They're just talking about it, all of them. So.
That's true. I lived in Montreal for a while, and it really did feel very European. So maybe that's a slip on my end. Anyways, Google going to pay 100 million Canadian dollars, roughly translated to American dollars, about 74 million annually. And I guess that's going to fund news agencies, quote, based on the number of full-time equivalent journalists engaged by those businesses. So
there's all kinds of controversy here. And I've been on top of this for quite a while. I've watched the testimony of Google before the Senate in Canada. I've watched all this thing, been quoted in CBC. Canada made a complete mess of this because they wouldn't listen to the tech platforms. They wouldn't allow any, they wanted to demonize them. And so they plowed through with this law, and Facebook used it as an excuse to say, fine, no news. Thank you very much. We want to get rid of this. Pups and parties. That's what we're doing from now on. Bye. And they're gone forever. They're not coming back to news. I'm sure of it. And I think they're going to say Canada worked in Canada, works anywhere else. They've lost no traffic as a result. It's fine. So 30% of the news sites traffic is already gone, period, forever, thanks to the Canadian government, the politicians, and the hedge funds that lobbied for this. So then Google said they were going to try to tell Google to pay up to $300 million a year. That's what Google promised to the entire worldwide news industry over a few years, and it was pretty generous. And Google said no, and there's no ceiling on this, and you don't have any structure about who gets the money, and no. But they kept, Google to their credit, Richard Gingras, the VP of News at Google, kept trying to say, why don't we just talk? We can be reasonable. There is something here. You just need to follow some sense of order to this. And finally, after Facebook left, they did, but they thought they were going to get like $300 million. They're going to get $75 million. They've lost Facebook. Now there's going to be a huge fight over who gets this money. And one of the big controversies is that a lot of the money is going to go to CBC, which is already government supported, and broadcasters, which isn't going to help local news particularly. And so it's a shambles. It's a mess. But I got to say, I credit Google with having done whatever they could to find some middle ground here so that they didn't have to pull out of Canada news.
Is this a scenario where there's way more losers than winners?
Yes. Well said. Well said. I think the citizens lose. I think the platforms lose. And certainly the news organizations lose.
All right.
And the problem with a lot of, and the thing is, here's the interesting question for y'all. So there's the JCPA, which is the Journalism Competition Preservation Act, BS, from Amy Klobuchar and company in the US. And then there's a California Preservation Act, whatever, I forget what that's called, C something. both basically the Canadian bill brought to California and the US. I think now, if they tried to do this here, Facebook would say, thank you. That's all we did it for was that excuse. Bye to news. And then they would similarly screw the entire news industry in the US. Google would still pay something, but it would be spread extremely thin. The New York Times would get a huge piece of it because they have the most staff, and it wouldn't help anybody really. It'd be a little bit of schadenfreude. So I don't know what happens to the follow-on legislation we end up with.
I would say what keeps running through my mind is, as a user of Facebook, as a recent re-Facebooker, because I had left for a while and then I got sick of not knowing what all my friends were doing. And I felt super disconnected. I had all the intention, the ambition to I'm just going to stay in touch with them by phone. And I'm good, that works for a small subset of people.
Tell me more, Grandpa.
Because I still have one and it still works.
I can stay in touch with the people I care about and not share all of that data, blah, blah, blah. And then at some point it was okay, but it's just much easier to do this. So I came back, and I think one of the things that I realized drove me away from Facebook, particularly during the kind of the election year of 2016 and the 4 years that followed, was the hyper sharing of news on that platform. And so there's a part of me that's kind of I completely understand and where you're coming from, Jeff, and I don't want journalism to suffer at the hand of something like this. But as a user of Facebook, I'm kind of I don't want news there.
Yeah, really.
I'm cool with it just being, sharing pics of your pets and, your family and stuff like that. But, that's a very closed-minded, me kind of perspective on that. I think it's also very different for Google to make that decision, and would have very wide-reaching implications. So, what do you think about this, Paris? Living your life and working in this
reporter
in the journalism world, especially.
I don't know. It's complicated, right?
Yeah.
I can understand why some publishers would want this originally. You want to be paid for when platforms are profiting off of your work. In this case, the news articles that you're talking about that annoyed you was something that Facebook was promoting for a while because it promoted engagement. And
right.
People being mad on their platform was profitable for them.
Totally.
But I think that what we were seeing from what is happening in Canada with this Online News Act is that it isn't going to work in this way. The after effects with platforms like Meta cutting off news means that some of these news outlets in Canada, in exchange for getting what's probably going to end up being a couple $1,000s or maybe $100,000 if they're lucky from Google, they're losing 15% of their overall traffic from Facebook, which is going to impact their bottom line considerably. And I'm sure that this same kind of dynamic will play out in other countries or states in the US if they end up following that. So I think that you need to rethink what you're asking for and approach this from a regulatory perspective in a different manner.
$74 million does not sound like a lot when you're talking about.
Definitely not.
Yeah.
For a year? Yeah.
For a year.
For all the news outlets?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's go ahead and split that up into tiny little pieces and give it to everybody. And I think you're right. I don't think that really does much to undo any of the impacts of this.
Obviously, I don't know the media structure in Canada, but if we're looking at that 74 million split between U.S. media, it's probably going to be something like Fox News, Daily Mail US, CNN, Washington Post, New York Times will get most of that. And then smaller outlets that are more digital media focused, like your BuzzFeeds or Pet News stuff or Lad Bible US are going to get some chunk of that. And then local news outlets are probably going to get $1,000 if they're lucky a year, which is not particularly helpful for anyone.
No. Might be more of an inconvenience to cash the check than it is anything else. It's
exactly.
I got a check from our insurance company. It was some refund check and it was 32 cents.
Oh.
I'm I just Like I think it's more. My time is worth more.
They cleared their book. That's all that says.
Yeah.
We cleared our book.
I mean, I could see
Jeff,
that.
I'm curious, as someone who's been following this story for a while, why do you think that it got to this place? I mean, was what news outlets and regulators asking for originally, was it always going to end up this way, or was there some point in the negotiations that things fell apart?
It's a great question. I think it was, the National Post and Post Media, which now owns it's the Gazette of Canada. It owns the vast majority of papers there. It's just, or I don't know if it's the majority, but it's the biggest by far. And it's controlled by a U.S. hedge fund. And then the Toronto Star was taken over by two guys who thought they were white knights coming in. I wanted to save journalism. And then they got into a huge fight because they couldn't agree about anything. And so one of them took part of the company elsewhere. They killed 600 little papers or something amazing, or laid off 600 people, killed lots of papers. And so they lobbied for it hard. And the press association, as here in the US, press associations used to be about saying, oh, we're so wonderful. Advertisers love us. Readers love us. Aren't we wonderful? Now press associations are lobbyists, pure and simple. So their lobbyists went full court in Parliament and said, we got to go for him. Trudeau's government said, ooh, this is a good opportunity to show how wonderful we are, how popular we are by going after big, bad American tech companies. And so they wouldn't brook any discussion with them. And Google and Facebook came and testified. I watched one time, as I said, with the Senate, where they said, there's problems with this law. We can work this out. We can talk this through. And the politicians just said, no, we are going to show how tough we are. And so they were left themselves in no position for negotiation. And actually, it's interesting because this is not rewriting the law. This is just writing the regulation based on the law. And it may or may not actually fit the law as it's written, because it was written so tough. This happened, Paris, in Spain too. After Germany started all this with and I love saying this on the show, the Leistungsschutzrecht.
There it is.
There it is. Haven't said it in a while, have I, folks? The Leistungsschutzrecht, the ancillary copyright, which actually didn't do much of anything, because Google said, we're not going to pay you. And Axel Springer said, you must, or we won't let you link. Google said, fine, we won't link. Then Axel Springer said about 2 weeks later, okay,
please
you can link. Yeah, please link. And we get no money. But that became the model that became the Australian model, the Canadian model, JCPA, all these other things. And there's a European model now too, which is very similar. So EU-wide. And so it's the publishers lobbying, cashing in their political capital to try to get this. And the politicians who say, oh, good, an excuse to go after big bad tech companies, and I'll have the press on my side. What's not to love? And they just didn't listen.
And that,
I mean, it feels like this is a reaction, obviously, to these huge headwinds we're seeing in the media industry. It's publishers and these associations looking for anything to blame or focus on other than the crumbling of ad dollars, which has been a trade, which has been something that's been happening to the media industry in some form or another for most of its existence. You go into this in your book, right, Jeff? Yeah,
I actually do at length. In the next book, I just handed in the line edit. Ooh. And the more I went through it, I ended up surprising myself tracking this business rivalry as a root of media's moral panic about the internet. Because the press blames the internet companies for their failures, whereas you just said, no, the internet as a whole just put buyer and seller together and didn't need the middleman who used to control the pricing power. And so welcome to capitalism. Mm-hmm. It's interesting, Paris, too. Let's say that there is a law like this in the U.S. What's the staff at The Information?
I think our editorial staff is like 50.
Right. So let's say that there was some similar pool of money in the U.S. It got divvied up by, well, you probably get left out entirely because you're not local and everybody's saying local's going to save democracy, right? So that's one. But if it did get divvied up, yeah, you'd get lattes for all. That's it. Look.
We could maybe up our Monday lunch budget.
There
to
you go.
$25 a person from 20.
Everybody gets a
Paris.
small milkshake as well.
It's a little. I think it's a problem when you're saying that you actually get lunch at a news company. Nobody gets lunch at news companies. Nobody.
Oh, yeah, it's true. That's
Kind of rubbing it in there, aren't you? Yeah, kind of.
a little bit.
Yeah.
The information.
They do things different around there. Everybody gets a small milkshake. Yay!
No whipped cream though.
Yeah, no extra. Yeah. All right. Well, that was just one of this cavalcade of Google stories. The rest of them are amazing.
Jeff could bore you about any of them.
Just check this one out. Google DeepMind using AI to, this is actually pretty cool. Predict the structure of around 2 million new materials. So there was a research paper. It was published in the science journal called Nature. And basically it said that 400,000 of its material designs, all of these hypothetical, could actually be created, be actually produced in lab conditions. And I don't know, I thought this was just interesting because when I think of the potential of AI and what it could do in the future and likely will do to some capacity in the future, that's more than just like generating, images and videos and correcting our spelling or, those kinds of things.
Yeah.
These are the kinds of discoveries that I wonder, like, how does this impact the world when AI is integrating into the medical industry and helping us get far better or far more accurate with what we're able to detect, discovery of like new materials that didn't exist before. Like that's just really interesting.
We'll never know about this stuff because this is the stuff that doesn't get clicks. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's all of the high and mighty. Wow, this AI is so cool. Look at how it generated this picture or generated that or what have you. And then it's, oh boy,
those are easy to share.
Doom.
They're very shareable.
Gloom and doom. The robots are going to take over. There's never any of the middle ground of coverage, and there's hardly ever any stories like this that's reached out to the masses. And that's wrong.
Yeah.
I want to mention, Paris, at the information, you have people who've been following this stuff for a very, very long time, and they turn around, they say, now you're paying attention to us?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Now we're hot?
We have a daily AI newsletter, which I believe is like in front of the paywall as well, written by Stephanie Palazzo. And she covers obviously I think the last 2 weeks have been more OpenAI focused.
For sure.
But all of, normally what she covers 4 days a week are all of the really interesting new developments in AI. And there are so many like this.
Yeah.
I think that it's really a field where if you are interested in the developments, there are constant updates at a speed that I think is unlike anything else we're seeing in tech.
Mm-hmm.
I think, again, that's another part of the message that never really gets pushed out is that AI can be used for speed, like quality speed and getting things done, whether it's, doing repeatable tasks or whether it's helping out with the research like this because they're running different models and figuring out, okay, this failed, that failed. So let's try this new variable. And it's doing all of that way faster than a team of people can do. Granted, it needs a little bit of human intervention, which is fine by me. But again, none of that stuff gets clicks.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true.
So I just went into my newsletters because I wanted to make sure that I subscribed to that newsletter. I just wanted to look at the latest issue. And here I see this invitation from Jessica, now that I'm a paying customer, for a 10-year anniversary for the information.
Yeah.
It's
Come
10
through.
years.
It's going to be, it's 10 years this
Wow.
month, as of December.
Dang, nice.
Really incredible. It's
crazy.
wild. I was looking back through some of the coverage when he first launched, and I think there's this like iconic Business Insider blog written at the time that says something like, wow, look at this Wall Street Journal reporter launched a news site and they're trying to get people to pay hundreds of dollars a year for a subscription. Ha, fat chance that'll ever work. Subscriptions are incompatible with media.
They said, bless her heart.
Now here we are, 10 years
quickly
later,
things
and
change. Yeah, totally.
some things have changed.
Wow.
Outstanding.
Yeah, it's a model you're seeing more and more.
You gonna go to the party, Jeff?
I'll be in Vienna freezing my butt off.
That's right.
Dang, you should have come to the party.
I know.
Yeah, and if you had a Pixel 8 Pro, you could bring it and then show off all the little bumps in your glass. Apparently, according to 9 to 5 Google.
Whoops.
See, this is what we have as far as Google news. I promise you, we'll get to more interesting stuff.
Still good.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, don't apologize. Go with it. Go with it. Be strong.
We love talking about the bumps in our glass. It's so exciting.
I have a Pixel 8 Pro. I do not have bumps in my glass. It's not the kind of thing that happens to everybody. But if it does, apparently.
Did you get it out and start inspecting it to make sure there were no bumps?
Yeah, a little bit, but then I kind of gave up because I didn't see anything and haven't seen anything. I imagine I would have noticed by now. But yeah, things like this happen. There's a small, and by small I mean like maybe a little more than 100 people have like tacked on to the bug report to report, oh yeah, that's me too. So it's a small group of people. Apparently this is happening. Apparently Google's gonna what did they say? They said, oh, actually no, this is actually pretty funny. Google says there is, quote, no functional impact to Pixel 8 performance or durability by these bumps.
Which they acknowledge the bumps existence.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like, yeah,
Bumps may exist, but they're totally fine, and don't worry about them.
Yes, exactly. It's not our problem. They don't actually break the device, so it's your problem that you can't just overlook the bumps.
That's bull. That's bull, especially for a $1,000 device. That sort of reminds me of the blue glare on the 6? You remember that?
What was it?
That.
Yeah.
There's always something.
That's just quality control. And I get that they're creating a ton of these devices, but you still need to do better with your quality control processes. And don't tell people, look, yeah, we know the bumps are there. It's not breaking anything.
Don't worry.
How about you just say, yeah, we know the bumps are there. Let us fix this for you.
Yeah, well, I mean, if I bought a device and it's imperfect because of some sort of, thing that I had no part in,
right,
and that other people are reporting the same thing, I would hope that the company would go to bat for me.
That's bull. I can't really see if I have any on mine. I'm struggling with my eyes here.
Yeah, your readers might not be able to pick that up.
Yeah, they're readers. They're not bumpers. So you need to get a different pair of glasses for that, I think. Maybe this next story kind of ties into, some of the complaints around the whole Pixel 8 thing. There's an 18-year Googler. So I guess at this point a Zoogler. Is it Zoogler? How do you say that? Zoogler? I can't even say it.
Yeah, shot.
It's like pronouncing X-Twitter. Yeah.
Yeah. Recently left the company. It's Ian Hickson. I believe worked for the Flutter team the last handful of years. Wrote an essay really taking Google out as far as its lack of vision, calling it out for its low company-wide morale, the deterioration of its company culture, which at one time was like a really big selling point for the company. And I don't know, when I was reading it, I was just reminded of Mike Elgan and his at this point his regular kind of admission that he feels that Sundar Pichai is not a good CEO for the company.
I agree.
Has priorities placed in exactly the wrong places based on where Google's at right now.
I agree with Mr. Elgin's sentiment, but the whole morale thing, I thought that was part of Google's big cachet, if you will, with them being one of the most popular places to work in the U.S. I mean, they were always at the top of the charts.
Yeah. And I wonder where that stand, like what is the chart? I don't know what chart you look at to know that, but where do they stand now? How does it feel to be inside Google?
I think things have changed since 2020. 2020 has changed a lot of perspectives for people, whether we like it or not. And I think a lot of times it changed it for the better too. But prior to that, it was like it was a joy to go to work at Google, supposedly, according to the
You had to work your butt off. You know, there was that, but people were happy to do that because of everything that they got out of the experience. And
but I still agree.
Their input and their what they brought to the table was valued. Yeah, felt like they were valued.
But I still agree that the leadership starts at the top with Mr. Pichai and the whole bit of ADD that Google tends to have over the last several years, and bouncing around between products and killing this product and opening a new product, and then a week later it's like, no, we're going to rename it to this, and then we're going to kill it. It's a mess.
Yeah.
Yeah, but on the other hand, if every, the fact I saw this thing and I thought, okay, if every company had to get a news story written about them when any employee left, and
that's
said,
true.
I don't like it working here anymore.
Yeah, that's true. That's very true. Probably some ex-employee could write this.
That's why I brought it up, because I was like, it seems like every year, again, prior to 2020, it seemed like Google was always at the top on, best places to work, based on the stuff that they offered, and I guess somebody was doing surveys, and they kept winning. They never said Amazon. They never said Microsoft. It was always Google.
No, true.
Mm-hmm. Is there any, do you feel like there's any truth to the idea that maybe Google is kind of entering, if not already in, the 2000s era Microsoft kind of moment in time where Google's been around kind of long enough. They've kind of done that. They're now like maybe having a hard time finding what their identity is in this current technology world. And there are others that are really competing heavily against them now. They were once, they were it. And now it's not so cut and dry.
No.
Does Google need a Satya to come along?
Yes.
And then there's hope.
Yes.
I mean, at least if we use this write-up to go off of anyways.
But it's interesting, Jason, and I mentioned this briefly in the next book. Does Google want to be a consumer company anymore?
Yeah.
Is it a B2B company? Because the consumer stuff they do, they kind of, here's when I was down there.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
And there's nothing wrong with being B2B, right?
No, there's not. It's a hell of a business. They've got a hell of a business. I mean, the hosting business, the ad business, it's all quite amazing. I mean, but I wish they had my Chromebook. I like their phone. Well, I went to when I was out for this World Economic Forum AI thing, when I got in, I went down, dutiful twigger that I am, to the Google new big tent and went to their store.
Right.
The Google experience. It's boring.
Yeah. That look on your face.
What they have going on?
Well, they had I had a very nice cupcake, by the way. Very nice pumpkin cupcake.
Because that's why you go to
pivot to cupcakes.
Because that's why you want to go to Google.
It's got a pumpkin cupcake. So they had a little cafe. They had an event space. And you go in, people are right on you. Hello, welcome. Glad to have you here. Okay, shush. You're just Google.
Standing ovation.
And then they got their products around. So you can do the same thing. It's prettier than Best Buy by a long shot.
Right.
But you can go play with the phone. And interestingly, they don't have it on wires. You can actually pick it up.
Okay.
Some measure of trust, or they have really good cops.
Right.
And so they have all the products around, and then they have a very small swag store. They used to have a much bigger swag store. Very small swag store with few hats, few bags, a little tiny Google bike.
Did you tell them you do a podcast about them?
No.
You kept
say, you're on the Grandpa podcast. Oh, you're on the Google Dads.
The Grandpa Google podcast.
That actually should be the new name of the podcast, is Google Dads and Paris.
Hey,
you were mentioning that, Google might not want to be a consumer company, and, and I think in order for Google to make that determination, it has to get clear on what its identity actually is. And I think that's exactly it. Google, I'm not entirely convinced that Google knows what its identity is right now.
But that's a leadership thing. Shouldn't leadership make that call and say, hey, this is who we are. Let's work the heck out of it and market the heck out of it and own it, just the way Microsoft did.
I mean, I think, Google's been around for like 25 years. It is a huge company. It is 170 some thousand employees. I don't think at that size, at the maturity that it is, and at the amount of revenue it generates, that it could even ever be just a purely consumer company.
Right.
I mean, I think that
you're right.
when you are getting to this level of maturity where you stop being an upstart and start being an institutional gatekeeper, probably the only way to keep shareholders happy and continue to grow your bottom line, grow profits, is by having a robust set of business lines. And that is not particularly sexy. It's not particularly interesting, but it's probably the reality of it, that they have to do a lot of stuff like B2B. They have to do government contracts. They've got to, increase their stuff in cloud. You're also going to have some teams that are doing consumer and, your bread and butter, but that's probably not the moneymaker anymore. I mean, look at a company like Amazon. They're expanding to, advertising. Cloud has long been their main profit center. I assume Google would want to do something similar.
Microsoft makes a lot of money with licenses over the enterprise and B2B. They're not making a ton of money with their devices and whatnot. So I don't think Google is making a ton of money with their mobile devices.
Correlation.
If they need to figure out a way to just capitalize on, yes, we are a search giant. Put more into that and make more money there and stop bleeding.
But
yourself.
That's not even the best part of the business. It's as Paris says, it's hosting and it's advertising.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But your parents are quite right. When Google went into advertising for the first couple of years, it was 98% of the revenue.
Yeah.
And now I think we talked about this in the show a few weeks ago, right? It was 70 something percent. So
when they had the earnings call.
Yeah, they've diversified pretty well.
I don't get me wrong. I dig the Pixel phones, but it would make sense to me if Google decides, okay, we need to just cut this, just let it go, and get back to the Chromebook and put more focus there and put more emphasis there, because we saw at one point in time where the Chromebook was really big for education and lower income people, and it could really make a lot of money off of it and have a real legit impact, more so than this phone that I love, because I still go out in public and people ask me, which iPhone is that? You know what I'm saying?
But it's got the camera, but it's got the signature camera bar. You don't even pay attention to you.
You're like, what iPhone is that? What did you do wrong to your camera? That's literally what normal people say. But if I were to walk out with a Chromebook, people know that's a Chromebook.
Dr. Do in Discord says, but kids hate Chromebooks.
Kids hate Chromebooks, correct. But the educational system, they're all for it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Especially from a IT device management standpoint,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's an interesting, reading this article really got me thinking about kind of like the moment that the kind of current state of Microsoft and how Microsoft is really being heralded in a lot of ways right now for the decisions that it's making and some of the risks that it's taken and kind of the trajectory that it's really shifted things since Satya.
Mm-hmm.
And I start looking at Google through that lens and thinking, okay, like you said, Paris, Google's kind of legacy at this point. Like they used to be when the internet was new, so was Google. And so they really kind of rode that wave for probably as long as they could before you kind of get to this point to where things have really just kind of, the dust has settled. They are who they are, and is who they are enough? Like, I guess it's enough for shareholders.
You say they are who they are, but who are they?
Well, you're right. Exactly. I'm not even entirely certain. But will they reach a point to where it's like, okay, we got to make some drastic changes. Otherwise, we will become a 2000s era Microsoft. And,
and with all that said, I still will give credit to Google for at least having the guts to say, you know what, this product isn't working. Kill it. And I'm talking about.
But the Chromebook was working.
But the Chromebook was working. Yeah, that was working.
It was.
But when they had that, what was the gaming platform called? Did everybody? Stadia. They like, no, this ain't cutting it. And they just cut it. No sense in trying to hold on to that.
So here's a parlor game for you. Yeah. And I'm not endorsing this idea because I think it's silly, but just for the sake of a parlor game, if you were going to break up Google, or if Google saw the pressure to break up and you were Alphabet, how would, and you wanted to beat the feds to it, how would you break up Google?
Oh, wow. That's a good question. I
don't know.
Honestly, I have no clue.
Know.
I feel like that's out of my pay grade.
Paris, your mic's off. Paris, your mic's off.
I was saying, I feel like I don't know enough about their revenue breakdown to do this. Did we ever
Oh,
have
you
that
want
at some
facts,
I would
Paris.
totally
because that is probably the best way to split it up.
Yeah.
I would split it with search and advertising. And
what do you mean, split them apart?
No. Keep that as one conglomerate, and the rest of everything else just cut it loose.
But then, how does the rest of everything else exist? Because I mean, isn't everything else basically financed by search and advertising?
Totally. It's all intertwined.
Man,
yeah,
that's a tough one.
I don't know.
I could see.
Is that coming?
So what's
Jeff? Do you think that's
no, not at all. I don't think so
okay.
at all. Well, what's dependent upon? Well, I think there will be a breakup of something around the ad business. They can't be the dominant player in both sell side and buy side.
Yeah, right.
And I've long said that Google, they went after Google on search, which was ridiculous because that was 10 years old war. They went after them on shopping in Europe, which was stupid because who goes after them on shopping?
Mm-hmm.
Their vulnerability has always been on the control of advertising, especially since they bought, all the platforms out there and programmatic came along. So, on the one hand, I could see just splitting off the ad services business and Google becomes a client of it. I could see splitting off the, how much. So yes, Google runs lots of ads, but Google through its search business also runs ads in sites around. But how do you separate that out? How do you separate out AdSense from the ad serving business? That's hard.
Yeah.
Search itself, I don't think is as wealth making as, I think this is Paris's point. I don't think search itself is the core of the business. It's the ad business, and the ad business is the ad serving business.
Yeah.
That is intertwined into the search business as well, right? Like it's all so combined.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, the hosting, but they're
of each other. Yeah.
Where do they stand? Where does Google stand now in the ranking of hosting? Does anybody know in terms of, is Amazon 1, Microsoft 2, Google 3? Is that? I have no
know
idea.
Google pales in comparison to Amazon.
I think it would be a version of that where 1 and 2 are interchangeable, but Google is definitely third fiddle, if you will.
Mm.
Right. So it's interesting. All right, here's, I'm going to keep the parlor game going. How would you break up, I don't think we should. How would you break up Facebook? Meta, excuse me.
I mean, I think that's a bit easier because there are distinct companies that have been acquired and folded in. And only recently, when was it, like 2019 or something, Meta decided to make them all kind of connected in the back end.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So I think it would be
a Meta product,
more straightforward.
Undoing some of that. Yeah.
Now, Mr. Jarvis, you said you don't think that this potential breakup for Google could come down the road. I just have a hunch
I think
that
something's going to happen,
especially with election season coming. I just got a hunch that somebody's going to put something on the table and try to scratch that itch. It's like, hey, we need to do something about, quote, big tech, and saying, yeah, we're looking at you, Google, that kind of thing.
Well, the Facebook thing is interesting, is what I think Ben Evans argues is fine. That's why you split up Facebook from Instagram from WhatsApp. You end up with 3 still gigantic companies that have the same business models that the giant did, and doesn't really accomplish anything.
Yeah.
In Google's case, the problem again, I think, is that they got themselves in this position where buy side and sell side and advertising are together. And so you could, I guess, split off one of those. And I guess that they still want to be in the AdSense business because they want to be the place that, because they know about web content, they know what's going on. They want to place ads all across the whole internet.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess they would get out of the sell side. I'm guessing. I don't know.
Yeah.
Mr. Scooter Etz put a chart in the Discord from Investopedia basically saying how Google/Alphabet makes money, and it's advertising in the cloud. And it's a nice, beautiful chart down there. It puts it in black and white.
What does it tell us?
90% of the revenue, and this was 2022.
December 31st, end of
90% of the revenue was Google services, and 9% was Google Cloud.
Wow.
And that was 2022.
Yeah, they have a more in-depth breakdown that's also in the Discord from Statista. It says, again, for 2022, ads, Google search and other properties was about 60% of overall revenue. Google Cloud is about 10%. Google Network ads, which is slightly different, about 11%. YouTube ads, 10%. And then apps, hardware, and content, about 10%.
Oh, Paris, your mic is a little light, I think.
It's what?
It's a little light.
She sounds fine.
She does to you? Okay. I didn't. Okay,
I can project more.
So
sorry, Grandpa.
You got the glasses.
I can't hear you.
The glasses
I can't hear you.
It's becoming a theme.
These kids today, they just mumble, you know?
They just mumble. They're not talking loud enough. They're out here talking about Google ads, and I can't hear them.
So in this chart,
sure, you get all your due attention, Paris.
We'll just take everything that has the word ads in it. We'll put that on one side.
That's
and then,
all they did.
Then we're left with Google Cloud, apps, hardware, and content. There, that's easy. Done.
Pretty much.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if that solves the problem that you're talking about, though, Jeff, because ads as a whole, there's the buy and there's the sell side, and that seems to be one of the big problems, or the things that's getting them into more trouble.
Yeah, but I'm not saying that breaking. I think breaking them up. That talk is just an attempt at Schadenfreude. I don't think it accomplishes anything.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's interesting.
I also think that, if we're thinking practically, the FTC doesn't really have, it seems like, the teeth or manpower to be engaged in multiple big tech breakups right now. It seems like the agency is struggling to even kind of manage its Amazon case alongside other things, much less try and do all of this at once.
I agree.
Yeah. Real quick before I go to the break, just because there's only one more story in the little Google block here, unless something else jumps out at us a little bit later. But
Google block, dude. We've been talking about Google for 45 minutes.
Yeah,
that's a dadgum record.
Hey, that's not bad. Sometimes we got to deliver on the name until it turns into general or geriatric or whatever it's going to be.
Yeah, this week in geriatric could be good, guys. Leo's going to come back and we'll have rebranded.
Yes. Right. And instead of a Dr. Evil chair, it's going to be like a cane.
He's
over here. Stand here with a cane.
It's going to be one of those chairs that goes up the stairs, right?
Yes. That's it. It takes him to his other studio.
We can get you guys life alerts just in case.
There we go. New sponsor opportunity.
He's helping any kids today, I'm telling you.
Google getting into the geothermal energy side of things. Apparently, they have a site in Nevada that is powering Google's data centers with clean energy thanks to geothermal energy. So
you'd think this would be something like really clean and energy. If you look at it, it's like the pictures it's like they're drilling for oil.
Sad.
Yeah. Don't want to walk through that cloud. Oof. Yeah, there we go. But hey,
it's an effort.
Then they can say, hey, we're doing it.
It's an effort.
We said we're doing something, so at least there's that.
Good on you, Google.
All right. When we come back from the break, we can talk a little bit about Amazon, because Amazon actually has some pretty current news. Most of it, if not all of it, related to AI. And I'd be curious to hear what you have to say about everything Amazon right now, Paris. But let's take a break first and thank the sponsor of this episode of This Week in Google, brought to you by our friends at IT Pro TV, now called ACI Learning. In today's IT talent shortage, whether you actually operate your own department or maybe you're a part of a larger team, your skills, they have to be always up to date, right? 94% of CIOs and CISOs agree that attracting and retaining talent, it's just increasingly critical to those roles. access more than 7,200 hours of content available with ACI Learning. So this is how you keep yourself up to date, consistently adding new content to keep you at the top of your game. Your team is going to thank you for the training because not only are you keeping them up to date, it's also very entertaining. ACI Learning's completion rate is actually 50% higher than their competitors because people enjoy it, right? You'll stick around longer if you actually enjoy what you're learning and what you're watching. ACI Learning is excited to introduce cyber skills. This is a solution to future-proof your entire organization, not just the IT department. It's a new cybersecurity training tool for all members of your organization. It's cybersecurity readiness and awareness training for non-IT professionals. So everybody can get on the cybersecurity train. With cyber skills, you get flexible on-demand training covering everything from password security and phishing scams all the way to malware prevention, network safety. Your employees are going to stay motivated. They're going to stay engaged. And the learning process, it's really easy to follow along with. You've got some really great materials to integrate into the experience. With a simple 1-hour course overview, your employees actually gain attack-specific training and knowledge check assessments based on common cyber threats that they're going to encounter. They will at some point on a daily basis. They'll also gain access to bonus courses, documentary-style episodes, so your employees can actually learn about cyber attacks and breaches in their own style. It really is a very active learning experience. ACI Learning helps you invest in your team and entrust them to thrive while increasing the entire security of your business. It's exactly what you want. And you can boost your enterprise cybersecurity confidence today with ACI Learning. Be bold, train smart. Visit go.acilearning.com/twit. Twit listeners can receive up to 65% off an IT Pro Enterprise Solution Plan after completing their form. And this is based on the size of your team. You'll actually receive a properly quoted discount that's tailored to your needs, to that team size that you have. So check it out for yourself. Go.acilearning.com/twit. We really thank ACI Learning for being with us. IT Pro has been with us for a very long time. ACI Learning has been with us all year long, as you've seen throughout our content this year, and we can't thank them enough. So thank you, ACI Learning. And go.acilearning.com/twit. Check it out for yourself. Okay, so Amazon had a thing, or I think they're still having a thing. It's the reInvent conference in Las Vegas this week, and had a number of announcements so far, all pretty much, well, at least the things that I threw in here anyways, AI related. They've got some new AI chips that increase, performance, energy efficiency. Everybody's kind of doing this these days. The big tech companies, they're all, creating their own AI chips to really tap into their offerings. Amazon actually has two. They've got the Trainium 2, which is intended for running trained models. And then they've got the Graviton. I want to say Gravitron, but that's a ride at the fair.
Either that or a character in Transformers.
Oh, yeah, that could be a character in Transformers. It's true. It does skew Transformer. Graviton 2 based on ARM architecture and consuming less energy than Intel and AMD chips. And that's interesting. I get a little lost in the chip stuff. I'm kind of like, okay, neat. I'm sure somebody can really geek out on that stuff. What I'm really interested in, though, is this chatbot. I got a bone to pick with Amazon about this chatbot. And ooh. I know at least Jeff, I know for certain you can probably understand this bone. They're calling it Q. And I just don't understand.
Oh, wait a minute. Wasn't there a Google?
In this day and age, 2023, almost 2024, why is anyone calling anything Q?
I could not agree more. Same with OpenAI.
OpenAI has Q star, and it's just like, come on, guys, we got to strike this letter from the alphabet.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, it's.
I screamed about that on Twitter. People, oh no, I got this whole long lecture about how Q has a basis in early computers. Do you watch the news, people?
I get it. There are other bases for that integrate with AI terminology over the years that you could choose other than Q. I would say at this point has enough baggage that you probably want to avoid it.
Didn't think about that. Oh,
that's
boy.
me. But anyways, it's an AI chatbot. It's really more designed for business. It's not actually a consumer AI chatbot at all. But yeah, Amazon getting into the chatbot game with its cloud architecture, now integrating kind of these chatbots as an option. It actually connects to all these different services. I believe through, what is it called? It's called Bedrock. So Microsoft 365, Dropbox, Salesforce, Zendesk, and allows businesses to really create. Again, we're in the same realm. They're all offering it now. This customized chatbot experience designed to match just the details that you feed into it through your business. So the idea there being it's safe, it's secure, it's private. You're not sharing information with us that we're going to use to train our models. It's all kind of like siloed for the most part. So
wow,
there we go. The Q chatbot.
I didn't think anything about this with Amazon. All I thought about with Amazon was this was quote Black Friday and quote Cyber Monday, and how disappointing I was. Disappointed I was in the Amazon pricing these last couple of days. Did any of you all try to do something with the holiday shopping?
Yes.
Or did anything work out, or was it just a typical, oh yeah, this is the same old 20% off you had 2 weeks ago on these products? Because it used to be, I remember
People were
things
biting
being
each
like
other arms off, lining up at
50% off,
Best Buy.
40% off.
Right.
And now granted, some of it was junk.
Doorbusters.
I have to put my glasses down. Some of it was junk. The TVs were junk back then, but they were 50% off, 60% off.
Did you ever participate in those doorbuster thingies?
No, but I appreciated that they did have things really marked down. I did go and look, but I never bought any of them.
Yeah.
He doesn't like people, don't forget. So
Right.
Well, that's true. If you don't like people, definitely don't do one of those. I've never done one of those.
And then on Cyber Monday, you go to the office and jump on the company internet and try to shop while your boss isn't watching. And
You're working. No, you're shopping.
sometimes you'd find some really good deals. And I haven't seen any, quote, Black Friday, Cyber Monday deals in a handful of years now. And this year just really stuck in my craw, if you will. I put a picture in our Discord, took some screenshots of just some random things that I would have looked for camera wise. Let me see. Yeah, one is a Canon camera, and it was marked down for 17% off. And I've seen it for 20% off just a handful of weeks ago. So does this marketing even matter anymore? Black Friday, Cyber Monday, does that even matter anymore to anybody?
I mean, it must, because another story in the rundown, 9.8 billion in online sales in the U.S. on Black Friday.
Man, what did they
Record
buy?
figure, according to Adobe Analytics.
Wow.
Sales are up 7.5% over last year's numbers.
Dude, I wonder what they bought.
So it's working. I mean, I bought a lot of stuff on Black Friday, but like,
What did you buy?
Yeah.
well,
if you
I mean,
can
it was
share.
all like presents for the girls primarily, and my wife and my mom.
Were they legit deals when you looked at it?
Well, I mean, some of them were. I mean, really, the way I enter a Black Friday experience, or at least did this year, is I already had I had a list created of the things that I was going to get, and so I was like, okay, where can I find the best price for this today? And
Okay, so
sometimes there were deals, but it was never like I guess what I'm saying is I don't approach Black Friday of like, I'm going to open the app and, oh my God, that's a TV for 50% off. I must have it, because it's like this deep discount.
that's
Like,
how
I have
they
an
push
idea what I want.
but that's how they
Where
push
can
it.
I find the best price?
Yeah, 'cause that's how
they all
advertising
push it.
works.
Yeah. They're like, okay, it's Black Friday's coming up and it's going to be this, that, and the third or what have you. And at one time, it was that kind of magnitude of discounts, but now it's no
Let me
different. from
tell
the
you
employee
something
discount.
as the old guy here.
The only doorbusters I need are attached to my shoulders.
To my shoulders.
or the bottom of my foot, Joe Esposito. Those are also doorbusters
That's
too.
a doorbuster. How did
You
it
get
work,
older.
Jeff?
You get older and you just don't need stuff.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Guess I
Put
better
that in your
get
pipe and
older
smoke it.
because I'm tired of needing stuff.
Yeah.
And yeah, Kim M in Discord. Yeah, I get it's advertising, but what I'm saying is I remember seeing ads for this is going to be 40% off,
Right.
60% off. And you showed up to those
Are they still doing
stores
that?
and it was 40, 60% off. Now people are saying up to 40% off and it never gets to 40% off. You know, it never gets there. It's always roughly 10 to 20% off, which is the same deal that they would do for the Veterans Day sale or the Memorial Day weekend sale.
Or
It's-
Prime Day.
You know, yeah, or Prime, yeah, even Prime Day was been pretty craptastic. You know, just
Good catch.
I don't know. It's just sorry for coming off.
But I
as
agree.
jaded.
I've tried to go on Prime Day and think, well, I'll see what inspires me. They recommend things to me that I couldn't possibly care less about.
Yeah.
Amazon way back in the day used to have good recommendations, and they let you tune the recommendations so that you got better recommendations. I used to love the book recommendations. All that's just so gone now.
Yeah.
I look at it and I see this whole overwhelming pile of stuff I don't need and then walk away.
Yeah. Right now I'm in my Amazon and I'm just, because I've been in there for the last couple of days and the family's been in here the last couple of days, it's pulling up stuff for the history as it should. And it said, well, here's some deals based on the things that you've been looking for. And every single one of them is 20% off. Well, no, there's a 34% off, but most of it's like 20% off. And I'm thinking this is not special like it used to be. You know, this is just another day. I don't know. First world problems.
Fake doorbuster.
Right.
Do they still do the doorbuster thing? Because that
was a thing.
That was totally a thing.
That
That was
was
the
a legit
circular. It was
thing.
like, be here at 5 a.m. and
None of that.
you know. Then you got all the videos of people trampling. I mean, I just found those videos depressing. I was like, oh my god, really?
They were
Is it
depressing.
worth that?
I went one time.
People camping out for
in-
days.
and like near fist fights because they want to get the last TV. You know?
I
It's
went
just,
one time
ugly.
in Greenville, South Carolina, on Thanksgiving. This is a handful of years back. And I remember leaving my mother's house. And I said, all right, Mom, I'm going to leave a little early because I'm curious to see what this Black Friday stuff is about, even though this is a daggum Thursday. And it was crazy traffic to get to the Best Buy and that whole shopping center there because people were, and it was raining and people were camped out. Long lines, people with chairs and stuff. And there were decent prices in there on some things, but not anymore.
Do you ever use camel?
I used to, where it sort of tracks the price. I used to.
That especially on a day like Black Friday or Cyber Monday, I use that site a lot.
Mhm.
So I'm like, all right, where does this discount actually?
Did you use a disc go around?
What's that?
Did you use a disc go around?
Yeah, a handful of times. Yeah. If I was pulling something up and it said it was
What'd you
discounted, it was
find?
like, I can't remember. There was one. It's going to sound so boring, but there was a dish, like a dish drainer thing.
Yep, I'm asleep already.
Sexy.
I'm telling you, we got our list of the things that we need, and it might not be sexy. I'm not walking out with, I'm
It
not
clearly ain't.
clicking buy on a TV because we have a TV, but we do need a dish drainer, Ant. And the dish drainer that we
And you need
want,
one at
He's
deep
so
discount.
grown up
Yes.
now, little Jason.
yeah, I flex, Dr. Do. That's right. Dish drainer. But got that thing for 40% off. I was happy,
Oh, 40% off.
I feel like Will Ferrell in that
So
movie.
it's
I'm going to go to
40%.
Best Buy.
40% off of $5, huh?
No. It was a simple human brand dish drainer. And
Ooh,
if you knew your dish
fancy.
drainers,
I clearly don't.
Jason,
La-di-da.
do you miss Bed Bath & Beyond?
sometimes, it just when I had a day off and I want to take it easy, I just want to take a trip out to the Best Buy and wander around, and I don't get to do that anymore. Yeah, I miss it.
Oh, gosh.
I take my coupon that was mailed, the $20 off coupon.
Jammer
Get,
B nods with
once
approval
every
in the
other
back.
week.
Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
Jammer B's
Best Buy
nodding.
is a depressing place now to go in person. I went recently and it was sad.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I went in there looking for a
just-
keyboard.
You just go.
But
there
it's
for cables.
fascinating,
It's just cable.
Paris, how the business model has changed. It's now a human advertising space.
What? Explain. What do you mean?
Okay.
Best Buy?
Yeah. Human advertising. What do you mean?
Yeah, it's because it's marketing space. So Apple has a space, Microsoft has its space.
I see.
Google has its little counter, and they're paying for that presence.
I see.
And so
that people can
marketing.
actually have a place that they can go in and play with the things that they are
I was once
often
involved,
just going to leave and then order online because that's what a lot of people do.
Which I did some consulting back in the day for Best Buy, and one idea one of the executives had was to have a guy at the door saying, "I know what you just did. You went over, you looked at that laptop. I know what you're going to do. You're going to go home. You're going to buy it online. Let's talk."
Mm-hmm.
No, seriously?
Threatening the customers at the door.
Wow.
Yeah,
I had that happen.
would have been a great
to me.
idea.
I've had that happen to me actually.
Yeah.
I know what you're gonna, because they look at me and they see I don't want to talk to anybody.
Yeah.
First,
No,
got your
you don't
phone
like
out.
people.
right. and they see me in there, literally just sort of taking notes, kind of thing. And okay, and then I'm out the door. I'm literally in there 5 minutes, and I've had someone stop me at the door and it's like, "Sir, look, let us help you out," kind of thing. You know?
Now, okay, so what does that mean though? Does that mean price negotiable or does
That's
that?
exactly what it was.
Oh, okay.
That's exactly what
And
it
did
was.
that
it
win
work?
you over?
It worked that time.
Okay.
It worked that time.
Whoa.
Yeah, because I got a good deal.
See?
Yeah.
I got a
Yeah.
good deal. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes
thing
even
is,
the
I was once
experience of
involved-
negotiating is inconvenient / uncomfortable though. You know,
I'm
like
not-
sometimes-
If you're gonna save me a buck, I'm listening.
yeah.
You know, I'm listening.
Sometimes I'm in the right mind frame for that. And
Yeah.
sometimes I'm like, I don't even
I'm
care. I just
listening,
don't want
but
to talk to you.
Well, I'm listening, but it is a bit of a short leash because I don't want your spiel. I don't want your
Yeah,
story.
right.
Let me get it in black and white. Okay, so you're gonna save me $100? Okay, cool.
Right.
Else, deuces.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I was once involved in a project. This is weird because of what would Google do. This guy came to me who used to be the president of one of the biggest malls in the world, and he said, "I have this idea, and I've got to talk to you," because somehow Google meant something to him. And I ended up part of this whole project where his vision was that we were going to take over a gigantic white elephant mall that wasn't done, and the idea was that it's marketing space. The whole thing is marketing space. That you don't go in to buy, you go in and you go and you can see the fashion and the gadgets and the cars and everything else, and you can look at them and you can ask questions about them and play with them, and then you can order them right there, and maybe you get a cut, but the way you make money is by charging the brands to be there,
Mm-hmm.
which is really kind of interesting.
Did that go anywhere?
Real money is.
No, I should I say this or not?
Yes.
It's so long ago. It's so long ago.
Break your
So
NDA.
it was in New Jersey, and for various reasons, no, it didn't. Somebody else got it. But one of the conditions that the then governor wanted to put on us was that we had to work with Donald Trump.
Mm.
And my guy said, no.
Wow, I love the alternate reality where you were in the pocket of Donald Trump
Yeah.
with your advertising mall.
The state person said, it'd be great. There could be an Ivanka boutique. No.
Oh boy.
Imagine. I can imagine. No.
In an alternate world,
Wasn't my-
somewhere
wasn't
out
my
in the
decision.
universe,
I was-
this exists, though, Jeff, and
Yeah.
you were
Yeah.
right there with it. This is just
Somewhere
how-
out in the
how-
world, you're cutting a big red ribbon in front of a store that's just giant red ties.
Yeah, no, the red ribbon is a giant red tie. That's what you're
I like that.
It's very
I like
important,
that.
yeah.
that would be a good gimmick. Anyways, okay. So any other like Black Friday shopping that's more exciting than a dish drainer?
Sorry for derailing.
I'm sorry,
this.
that's all I could come up with. But did you buy anything exciting, Paris?
I'm trying to think. I don't think I did. I think I'm going to a wedding this weekend, and I'd been meaning to buy a dress for it online and truly did not mean to buy it on Black Friday, but I just forgot. So I guess that counts.
Okay.
It was at a discount.
All right.
I was trying to get a new lens maybe for my camera, but I got overwhelmed by the options, so I didn't buy anything.
Yeah, I can understand that.
And it don't matter. They were only 20% off too. So
That's the thing. They weren't. I was like, it's not worth it.
yeah.
I'm going to go into a local camera store and ask them questions, I guess, before I make a decision.
20% is 20%, especially on a lens that's like $1,000 or whatever. You know, like,
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. is I'm not
$200.
going to get $1,000 lens. I'm going to get probably a cheaper one. So it's like it's like $50 probably is
Okay.
going to be the difference. But
What questions do
money.
you have? I can answer them real quickly.
Here's your salesman.
I was
He
thinking
doesn't
about
sell,
emailing
but
you.
he'd
Should
like
I get a different lens for my Canon camera that I use as a webcam? I'm just using the out of the box kit. It's like
no, because right
2
now you
feet
look
away
fine.
from me.
Right now you look totally
Okay,
fine.
cool.
It's a good, beautiful image. If anything, you'd get something that's got a wider aperture, but it's not necessary.
That's kind of what I figured eventually after doing some research. I was like, they're all so expensive. And I don't know if I was going to get one, I'd probably have to get like a fixed lens or prime lens. And I don't know.
You want to do a prime in this instance. But again, if all you're going to do is just slap it on your quote webcam, keep that money in your pocket. Please, ma'am.
Thank you.
Wow. And so instead of saving 20%, you saved 100%.
Wow, this is my real Black Friday deal.
Well, actually
Courtesy
saved
event
80% because there was 20% off, so it wasn't the full 100%.
Thank you. Thank you for keeping us honest.
Okay. All right. Fine. Not bad. Okay. Let's see here. I think actually we do need to take a break, and then I don't know where we're going to go from there. So how about y'all take a look, and we'll do, didn't Leo do this recently where like, all right, everybody pick a thing.
Yeah.
You want to talk about
He
it?
was just tired.
Yeah, he was
tired.
worn out that day.
Well, I mean, I'm a little tired too. So I could use that as my excuse.
Nice
Sure.
try. Nice try.
All right. So y'all can take a look at the doc and pick out a story that you want to champion or you just want to make sure that we talk about. But I'm going to take a break. Thank the sponsor of this episode of This Week in Google, brought to you by Mylio. This episode of This Week in Google brought to you by Mylio. Here at Twit, we are users. We are fans of Mylio photos. And right now, for a limited time, Mylio is offering a holiday gift bundle. So, if you missed out on, we were just talking about Cyber Monday and Black Friday and online shopping and everything. Don't worry about it. Get the holiday gift bundle from Mylio. It basically, this means that it's the perfect time to get started, right? The holiday gift bundle includes 1 full year of Mylio Photos Plus, easy to use editing software Radiant Photo. You also get a premium membership to the photographer community platform ViewBug. So it's like you get a whole package deal, essentially. Mylio Photos recently dropped the year's biggest update, offering even more customization, more accessibility options, and control to how you handle your digital libraries. I know my library is large. Mylio Photos really is a wonderful way to keep it organized. It's awesome. I'm so used to using Google Photos and using Mylio Photos. I don't know. I really like kind of the software-based approach that I've been using recently. Mylio Photos Plus offers even more by letting you connect all your devices, and you can take full advantage of the new shared albums and spaces tools to share your media with customized control and privacy. Spaces actually lets you sort and organize files into subject-specific views. So, you could have one view for family, one for work, personal, private. You can create custom spaces for whatever you happen to want. And this actually opens the door for more productive collaborations with your team or automatically sharing photos with family members who are signed into the account, that sort of stuff. And with remote control, you have full control over what's visible and which tools are actually available on each device connected to your account, no matter who it is. And so it's perfect for work portfolios, for managing project assets, for personal organization, of course, that's what I use it for. And you can even use Mylio Photos for free on one device. And that really does kind of get you into the experience and, you'll get hooked. Get 25% off your first year of Mylio Photos Plus today for a limited time. You can check out the holiday gift bundle for even more great deals by going to our special URL. That's mylio.com/twit25 for your 25% discount. That's MYLIO, mylio.com/twit25. Download Mylio Photos Plus for free. Do that free. Just download it right now at mylio.com/twit25. And we thank them for their support of This Week in Google. All right. So we'll start with the person sitting in the room with me and Pruitt. What do you want to talk about? I was thinking
The only one that really got my attention was
I knew you were going to pick this one.
the Adobe and Figma deal.
Yeah.
According to the Wall Street Journal, Adobe's $20 billion purchase of Figma would harm innovation. UK regulators provisionally fined. I don't get it. I get that we want competition in any of these spaces, be it software or cars or whatever. I get that, but at the same time, if a merger can bring a better product to the masses, I don't see anything wrong with that. Now, Mr. Jarvis, I know you have some background as far as with dealing with competition and antitrust and so forth, but where does this fall here for you, in your opinion?
Yeah, I didn't know, but I was going to ask you, Ant.
I think it's fine. I think it's totally fine that they would team up. Figma has resources, but they don't have Adobe resources.
Well, that was the question that I had when I was reading through this, because like I'm very familiar with Adobe. Like, I should say I've interacted with Adobe.
Mm-hmm.
I have not used Figma, but the way this article is written and the way that they're kind of spelling out, Margot Daly, who's the chair of the independent group that conducted the investigation, basically said Adobe and Figma are two of the world's leading providers of software for app and web designers. Our investigation so far has found that they are close competitors. This has the potential to impact the UK's digital design industry by reducing, choice innovation and development of new competitive products. And I guess when I read that, I was like, wow, I guess I didn't realize that Figma was that major of a player.
They're pretty good. But then at the same time, Adobe has been trying to do a lot of the things that Figma does from a design standpoint and user experience standpoint, and they were getting there, but they're still they wasn't Figma, and Adobe knew that and said, you know what, if you can't beat them, join them. Let's make an offer, which is what most companies do anyway.
Yeah. I mean,
and Figma agreed to it. Figma was like, yeah, sure.
I mean, yeah, it's like the biggest sale of a private company I think ever at the time.
Yeah.
Wow.
And Figma is huge among graphic designers.
Yeah.
It is like the product as far as kind of interactive or collaborative website design and interface design. So I think Adobe was a bit afraid.
Yeah. Adobe was getting there.
Figma was eating its lunch.
Yeah, Adobe was getting there, but they wasn't there yet. And again, I think it's one of those lines of, well, if we can't beat them, let's buy them.
Well, but I think you've just made the antitrust argument.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's it precisely.
Yeah. But at the same time, Figma was like, sure.
Well, yeah.
Our routing number is here.
Of course.
Of course. So I don't know.
What does that do to the design industry, as far as the...
Well, but then also, let's say this deal does go through. Who's to say that there's still not a bit of the Figma DNA involved in what Adobe brings forth in 2025 or so, Because again, Adobe has been trying to I shouldn't say mimic what Figma has been doing and get some of those customers. But who's to say that they want... They purchased this company and still use a lot of their developers that are there in the house and use a lot of their design aesthetic to help make the product even better for everybody, not just people that were formerly Adobe and not just people that were formerly Figma. It's for everybody.
Well, so that happens. There is still a Figma to compete against them with that feature set versus there not being that if Adobe ends up buying Figma. And I think that's at the core of it.
And I'm sure that there's other open source options out there too, but of course they don't necessarily compete as well. And yes, I know a lot of our Twit listeners are open source advocates, but I gotta tell you, GIMP, not very good, and Inkwell, not quite as good as Illustrator. It is what it is.
And low user count by comparison?
Definitely.
So then I think even more you're making the case, you're making it make more
Adobe
sense.
Prosecutor.
Adobe did it right, though. You know what I'm saying? Adobe did it right.
Adobe did it right if Adobe wants to, swallow up the competitor and
I don't know.
make more money as a result. But I think what they're arguing is, but what are we left with if we let you do that?
Yeah.
We're left with one dominant player and a couple of, at least, what you're saying.
I think you're going to be called as an expert witness, Ant.
There we go.
Yeah, again, like I said, I don't see
Adobe's
anything
on the phone
wrong
right now.
I don't see anything wrong with the deal, but that's just me. I just see this being an end game of a better product out there that's available. Now, if Adobe decides to turn into jackasses and charge a ridiculous amount for it, that's a problem.
Mm-hmm. Well, okay. Paris. Throw to you, Paris. What did you see?
I feel like this week I was particularly interested in Elon Musk going kind of mask off in his sharing of the Pizzagate conspiracy theory.
Oh boy. This was a headline I saw, and I did not read into it because I just
he
wanted to roll my eyes at it.
had
Saw the last
posted a meme that pretty much just kind of goes into the Pizzagate conspiracy theory earlier this week, and then kind of deleted it either this afternoon or yesterday. And it was just kind of stunning to me because it is the sort of thing where, we talk a lot of crap about Elon Musk on this podcast because he's a funny man and does weird things. But this is, I feel like, a new level. The owner of a tech company using that platform to spread misinformation is kind of beyond the pale. And this is coming on the heels of his whole anti-Semitic tweet.
Yeah.
Oh, boy.
Period, where a bunch of different advertisers have already pulled out. I believe he met, I think, with a member of the Israeli government recently to try and say, hey, I'm not anti-Semitic. It really just feels like it's all happening at once here. And I just wonder where this leaves us.
If we don't condemn, part of my argument that I make is that we're still building the internet brick by brick. And if we don't condemn Musk, then we open the Overton window for him. However, I can hear someone saying, well, then why are you still on Twitter, Jarvis? And it's the right question because there's also people there I care about. Mm-hmm. And how do we grapple with this nihilistic, narcissistic a-hole who's in charge of so much of our public discourse? It's, I saw something the other day, somebody on Twitter, a journalist, said that Musk kind of got corrupted by the internet. No, Musk is corrupting the internet.
I think it's a vicious cycle,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the whirlpool that he's sitting in.
I didn't even know anything about this story, but then again, I've sort of stepped away from Twitter.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't.
Yeah, it was essentially, he had posted a meme
and he deleted it too.
That he then deleted it after it was viewed 15 million times.
I think that's a big story right there. The fact that he deleted it, considering he's Mr. Free Speech and I'm going to do what I want to do. Why would he delete it? Did anybody ask that?
I think he was at DealBook while we've been on this podcast, so maybe.
It's possible.
Possible.
Yeah. Musk has become one of those words that I just kind of tune out when I see a headline come across because I'm like, this never ends well.
Yeah, and they keep reporting as if they should report what he says in these moments.
That's true. We're kind of, I think largely the industry
gets amplified
is stuck in that kind of rut with Elon Musk. It's like, well, we have to because he's notable, and it's like, well, you don't actually, but I also kind of understand where they're coming from because, like, what if you don't, and then that ends up becoming a really, really, really big deal? Then you weren't doing your job,
Yeah,
I'm really surprised.
I think in this case we kind of had to because, as as Paris says, it's really awful.
Yeah, it is awful. I know. And ignoring it doesn't doesn't change anything.
Just in from about 15 minutes ago at the New York Times Deal Book Summit where Elon Musk spoke. He apologized for what he called his, quote, dumbest ever social media post, referring to anti-Semitic comments.
Yeah.
But he told advertisers to go themselves, and I quote. Actual thing.
Well, all right.
He said
on stage, like at the same thing.
On stage, he said, quote, I don't want them to advertise. If someone is going to blackmail me with advertising or money, go f yourself. Go yourself.
Wow.
Is that clear? Hey, Bob, if you're in the audience, that's how I feel, referring to Disney CEO Bob Iger.
Wow.
Wait, Paris. Who reported? Was this the Information or was this the Times?
I mean, I think everybody reported. I was just quoting from a CNN article because it's the first one that came
Did they use the F word?
They asterisked it out, but I said it for you guys because I believe in free speech.
we're old guys. Jammer B is over there twitching. But.
Yeah.
I know. I'm sorry for who has to bleep this out or whatever.
Yeah.
You know,
it'll
I think it's important that we get the news.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Interesting, though. He apologized and deleted
Well, he
it.
did, but he didn't. He didn't. That's the point.
He didn't. That's not really an apology.
No.
Yeah.
If you apologize and then tell the advertisers who left because of your comments to go F themselves, that's not really.
No.
Speaking of the advertisers,
Wait a second.
What's next as far as Twitter's revenue? They're not going to get that many subscribers to keep it a floating boat, right?
No, I don't think before Elon Musk had even purchased them, when Twitter had the most advertising revenue it has had in recent years, still again, not much. That wasn't enough for the site to be profitable. Obviously, they've slashed headcount, but Twitter Blue subscribers only make up a fraction of of that revenue. And now they're losing, I think the recent totals have said that they've lost the equivalent of like $75 million for this year.
Yeah. You probably don't want to do this, Jason, but I just searched Musk on Twitter and found the video. Yashar Ali has the quote, the short one. What's interesting about it is the stunned silence in the room.
After he apologizes or after the F-bombs?
Well, you can play it if you want. Camera B's going to kill you if you do.
Won't.
Yeah, pretty sure we're not going to play it.
Okay. So there was stunned silence, and then he says it again, and then there was kind of like nervous Twitters.
Yeah.
Like, is this real? Is this guy saying this?
Yeah. Well, it is. I mean, it is kind of crazy. Like, it's super unexpected, but then at the same time, in retrospect, totally expected. Yeah.
And at the same time, it is his platform, as much as we hate to admit that.
Well, it is and it isn't. And I don't believe it's a utility. It is his. You're absolutely right. He owns it.
Yeah.
But what responsibility comes with it?
Yeah, we believe there's some responsibility to come with it, but doesn't necessarily that doesn't necessarily means he believes that. It's just this is another one of his toys, another one of his things that he owns. You know,
and the purchase of Twitter was not predicated upon any sort of assertion that, like, okay, if you buy this, then you have to follow these rules. So yeah, I mean, I agree. It's his to completely destroy, but I don't agree that he should.
Yeah, right.
And it's also ours to fight for.
About that.
You say it's for us to fight for it?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I think that's what kind of came out from the Black Twitter Summit in February.
Yeah.
Was, we built something here and you're gonna have to rip it out of our hands.
Yeah. I think that's fair. I'd agree with that. Sometimes
somebody said not there, but you once you gain territory, you don't give it up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So is that squatting?
No, it's refusing to join in white flight to the suburbs.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Yes. Okay. And I think those are the only F-bombs in this show. Everyone who's
so far.
Tempt me.
earmuffs, you can take them off now.
I'm sorry, children. I'm sorry, children who are an hour and 45 minutes into this tech podcast.
This is how they are put to bed at night sometimes.
They just go to sleep listening to the Google changelog.
It works really well. It works really well.
It puts them to sleep. Yeah,
Exactly.
it works.
You're not a peep. Jeff.
All right, I've got a fun one.
Yeah, what's
got a
one
fun one for you.
Yeah.
I've a nice kismet here of two stories that come together.
Great.
The first is my favorite. It's new low in manels.
Manels.
That a tech conference made up women panelists.
Oh, yeah.
And had the AI make them up.
Miss
to be
Adriana
in
shared
the
that with me.
Event. Yeah. I had already put it in the rundown. And she said, "Oh, you're on top of things." I said, "No, not really. You're absolutely right. You were right there with me." But I couldn't agree more. DevTernity, a dev conference, made up women. Like Anna Boyko has an impressive profile, says Gerge Oratz, as he's writing about this. And so he started looking her up and found out that she was not real. And there were others at the conference too. And then the conference organizer got very, I guess we could call it now, musky, and told people to screw off, and everybody's canceling out of the conference. So don't do that, fella. Wrong and stupid. So then that was the one story. Then the next day is Sports Illustrated, which is not in its former glory, has fake authors, also made up authors writing product reviews. Sports Illustrated is now owned by a marketing company. It's lost
SI, come on.
Glory. Yeah, SI ain't what SI was, my friend. And so they had AI generated content, and the vendor tried to insist it wasn't, that they used fake authors. In any case, it was all fake. It was all ridiculous. And the staff is up in arms. But I think somewhere there's a machine that's making up a fake conference for the fake speakers and the fake authors to come together. None of them with legs on, but that's another story from Paris.
Okay, so if this developer conference, I remember looking at it just briefly, they do more than one conference. They do a handful of conferences.
Yeah, I think he's hurt.
So
it was canceled, by the way.
I wonder how many, what was their attendance like prior to this, because this isn't something they just started doing today, conferences wise. This isn't their first rodeo. So,
well, what it says is they got pressure, as they well should have, for having manels.
Yeah.
Right. And then were they not going to be found out? Like, well, gee, I saw that Anna was here. Oh no, Anna had to cancel.
Well, that's what's so weird to me. Like, how do you do that and not think that at some point someone's going to notice? And is that like how do you negotiate with yourself that that's a risk you're willing to take?
It makes me wonder how often.
And how is it not difficult? Like, how is it difficult to actually get women on the?
I mean, clearly they didn't think that they were going to. They're like, well, we don't have a placeholder actual woman we could put in here, so we'll just keep these fake women here until we find one. And then they're like, well, we kind of forgot about that.
Do you all think this is happening with some of the other conferences? Because people do cancel and not able to show up for some of these things.
Yeah, but that's I've ended, I can't remember the last time I ended up on a manel, and in fact, 3 people had canceled. That's true. Yeah. But it's not a good of an excuse.
Yeah.
At some point, you cancel the panel rather than having a manel.
Okay. Good point.
I appreciate the rhyming that's happening, whether you're trying to or not. It's just...
Somebody give Jeff Jarvis a beatbox.
Oh boy. Yeah, it's so weird to me that things like that happen. I'm almost like, God, seriously? You really thought that no one was going to figure that out? Like, I just don't even understand what's going through people's minds.
Yeah.
It's craziness. What about, so we mentioned it earlier when we were talking a little bit about Amazon's Q thing, and we didn't really touch base with OpenAI because that has been, wow. I mean, I realize you all talked about it last week on the show, and it was the really big news, the weekend drama and everything, but we're now a week further. And I think last week's show, we didn't know anything about the Q star thing, right? And now we do.
Well, we kind of do.
Well, now we know something about it. Yeah, we know that it's a thing. Supposedly. And I'm trying to figure out, like, what does it actually mean about an AI system? And I guess the what is it? It's Q star. There's people who were close to all the events that went down with OpenAI who are at least leaking to the press that that this Q star effort in OpenAI is a breakthrough. It enables, it brings us one step closer to AGI, to artificial general intelligence. And one thing that it's capable of doing,
sorry,
there we go. I was waiting for that. One thing that it brings us closer to is the ability to solve, at least according to these reports, simple math equations. And what does that even mean about an AI system if it can do that? It means that it can get that one right answer, the one and only right answer that is possible. It means that it's able to reason in a way that at least, reason in air quotes, in a way that... We don't
throw that word around.
Yeah, that's true. Sorry. I'll go ahead and put my fingers in the air. In a way that closer resembles humans, at least according to the things I read. Not that it is that or reasoning at all. And that, the questions around like what kind of applications are possible if we have an AI system that is able to do these things. And so I have more questions than answers, I guess, as far as
I want to hear Paris from the wisdom of the information on this first.
Yeah, I guess some important details about this is that my colleagues had reported, I think last week, that the interesting thing about Q-Star is that it was able to solve math problems that it hadn't seen before, which is an important technical milestone. And kind of a demo of this model that had circulated within AI in recent weeks, the pace of the development had alarmed some researchers focused on AI safety. Which kind of speaks to these, I guess, larger brewing tensions within the company that even now, like a week or more later after the whole exodus, defenestration of Altman and his return, we still really don't have answers to.
No.
We don't know what exactly the board was concerned about, safety-wise or relating to his candor, if those concerns are valid or not. And no one, it seems like, within the company outside of the board members, some of them were not even on the board, have really spoken about this, which I think leaves us with a lot of important questions about a very important technology.
Yeah, the Reuters story that first kind of broke this. A lot of people in the field got really mad at the Reuters story, saying you're swallowing this idea that it exists. You're quoting no real source, and you don't really know what actually it does. Then there were fascinating fights. LeCun, I'm just loving, the Meta's guy in charge of AI, because he just shoots bullets at everybody's bubbles and delights in doing that. So he got into a whole bunch of fights this week with people on different topics, with Jeffrey Hinton and others. But also, to further plug the information, there was a very good story on the Hugging Face's CEO by Stephanie Palazzolo. Did I get that right?
Yeah, she's the AI, she writes our AI newsletter we were just talking about.
So
they recently teamed up with Dell, right? Is that right? With Hugging Face and Dell?
Hugging Face? Oh, I think they did something like that. Yeah, for their hosting. But he was speaking at, speaking at a company event. Margaret Mitchell is the head of global policy. Chief ethics scientist, and Margaret Mitchell is one of the authors of the Stochastic Parrots paper. So that gives me a lot of more faith in this organization than others. But at the book, lower down the story, it says what comes after Transformers. And I think this is a critical part of this. We'll probably talk on the AI show a little about tomorrow, Jason, just to give a plug in there for that. AI Inside coming up tomorrow.
Inside plug
for club members, is that Transformers are the word prediction machines. That's not a reasoning machine.
Right.
And so to lash on to the word prediction machine, very expensively trained on the whole universe of all words, and to say, well, now we can make it add. Wow, it can do childlike math. That must be, we're an inch from AGI. I think it's BS.
Yeah.
That's not to say that there can't be other models in other directions that are trained differently with different tasks. I think we might have hit the wall of what transformer-based stuff can do. And It's not the path to AGI in my view. I don't know anything. I'm not an expert, but it just strikes me that the gulf between here and there is just too great. And the fact that this allegedly now they've added math ability, rudimentary math ability, doesn't prove reasoning to me, doesn't prove intelligence to me. A little more general task ability, okay, but I still think the limitations are huge. That's not to say that there aren't other things that are coming down the pike that can be very interesting. And that's why this piece in the information really interested me. There's only 2 paragraphs about that part. But I think that's what you want to look for is what are the next models that come after Transformer?
Yeah. And how quickly.
Yeah, and it seems like this Q-Star team and kind of the various developments are working on getting these companies there. Part of the breakthrough, I believe, that happened with Q-Star and all this work is Suitsgiver, who is one of the people who was kind of responsible for calling the coup, but is still at OpenAI and is part of this. He had kind of led this like breakthrough at OpenAI that allowed them to kind of overcome limitations on obtaining enough high quality data to train new models, which has been like a major obstacle for generating these next generation models. And I think as we start to get more and more breakthroughs like that, the questions we have to even answer, about this technology and what it can do are going to change dramatically.
Paris, was really interesting at the AI event I attended in San Francisco. There was a lot of talk about synthetic data. And in the big model world, we don't have enough data. We've got to make up data. But then that strikes me as really kind of weird because you're having a machine make up the data. You don't know the validity of the made up data to train the machine on. At the same time, you have LeCun and company who are saying, no, the future is small models, not big models. Mm-hmm. Do enough to train it that it can do the task. And then you have more control over it, which goes back to stochastic parrots. Well, it's fascinating debates, I think.
Well, we're seeing a lot of that right now with the development of the kind of like the custom chatbots like AI and OpenAI and everything like that. That's at least in some ways that's an example of kind of narrowing the scope but making it very specific to a certain target or a certain sector.
I can't remember the Meta person you mentioned, but you said he's been having arguments with Jeffrey Hinton. What was?
Well, so Jan LeCun is the Meta guy. The Gary Marcus piece I put in the rundown at line 58. So Gary Marcus is a really strong voice of caution, not in the crazy religious way, but just in this sanity. And I met him at the AI event, and I respect him. So Jeffrey Hinton is out there screaming, "Danger, danger! Will Robinson world going to blow up?"
Right.
And Jan LeCun is coming in and say, so Hinton says, Jan LeCun thinks the risk of AI taking over is minuscule. This means he puts a lot of weight on his own opinion and a minuscule weight on the opinions of many other equally qualified experts. LeCun, who takes no crap, comes in and says, I just think the assumptions you and those equally qualified experts are making are wrong. And so do the vast majority of the no less qualified colleagues.
Ooh.
They go back and forth. Ooh. And then comes in Andrew Ng, who was a founder of Google DeepMind. And I saw him too at this event and think he's very smart. And he points out that scientists don't do this by taking a poll. They don't say, well, so many scientists on this side and so many scientists on that side. And that's what this, yes, you can. No, you can't. Yes, you can kind of debate this has come down to. Yes, we can destroy the earth. No, we can't. Yes, you can. No, you can't.
That's the beauty of science. That's
ridiculous.
Of science.
Exactly. So then the other part of this is that Europeans were ready to pass an AI regulation. And some countries said, whoa, we're always in this case where we're regulating. We don't build anything. We don't make any money that way. We're not employing people that way. As politicians, that's not a great thing to do. Let's hold off. And then that got the doomsayers all pissed off at the EU and the regulators who were pulling back. So that became part of this whole fight. Then in comes Max Tegmark, who's at MIT. He's a real doomsayer. And it's like watching performative wrestling now. But it's performative wrestling among these people who are very smart and know a lot of which I can't explain. I don't know. But it's fascinating to watch.
Let me tell you,
it's kind of stupid.
Yeah, it really does feel like wrestling on Twitter.
Well, if you go down in that post I put up.
Yeah, I see where Nano de Freitas say, I admire Jeffrey Hinton. LeCun and Andrew. But as Andrew says, this is not about opinion. The world is listening. It is now time for more nuanced arguments and solid analysis drawn on real scientific, economic, and international relations knowledge. Well said.
Amen.
Well said.
Then if you go down lower in the post, you see that Gary Marcus is trying to replace Joe Esposito with his work in illustration.
Good try, but you're no Joe Esposito.
Yeah.
So for those of you on audio, there are the gods of AI in their boxing shorts.
And gloves.
Boxing gloves, all four of them.
And gloves.
Yeah.
And little boxing shoes.
Oh, gosh. Nice try.
That's pretty good.
Amateurs.
Amateurs. Interesting stuff. Should we do a little mini changelog before we get on to the next? Or actually, before we do changelog, is there anything else in here? Then we'll do changelog, and then we'll.
Is there any other AI stuff that you did this week in AI? You did one thing.
Yeah, but I put okay. Do you want to talk about Anthony Levandowski's Church of AI?
Yeah, because I don't pay for Bloomberg, so I want to tell me about that one because I don't pay for Bloomberg, so I don't know what it says.
Well, I mean, essentially, okay, this is all relatively new news to me. Apparently, Anthony Levandowski, former Google. And he was with Waymo, right? He was the guy that leaked the secrets.
Yeah, that got into all kinds of trouble.
Famously.
Okay, famously leaked the secrets of Waymo. Anyways, apparently he's putting together, and it has been since I think 2015. He originally founded this in 2015, a church for worshiping and developing artificial intelligence. It's called the Way of the Future, and he says
with or without irony.
Yeah.
No irony here?
I mean, as far as I can tell, this is without irony. If he's been working on this since 2015, he says he bragged that it has a couple thousand people among its members. So there's that. There's always someone out there, I suppose. He says, quote, for the last 4 billion years, we've had organic life forms. Now, for the first time, things are changing. We're going to have inorganic life forms. We don't know what these life forms are going to be, but we're going to fuse it with all these magical powers. We want it to give us things. He believes that thanks to AI, humans will soon, quote, actually talk to God, and God can talk back to you.
Oh,
That's the Church of AI.
Oh,
Anthony,
no.
you okay? You doing all right, Anthony?
But the thing is, Jason, this is just like Tescriel. It's just another.
Well, no, totally. I got that. And people in Discord have been wagering when they were going to hear Tescriel. And there you go.
People in Discord were saying we should do a drinking game based on when you mentioned Tescriel.
Is the
I think
new
that's pretty fun.
Gutenberg.
Yeah, it's true.
And there we go. We got there. But I totally agree, Jeff. When I was reading this, I was like, this really kind of merges into this familiar territory.
You know, we do need a twig bingo game.
Yeah.
We do. Get on that, guys.
Yeah.
The at the center gimme chip, that is Tescriel. Like we just actually maybe Tescriel, maybe instead of bingo, it's Tescriel, you know?
T47.
So that's all it was, Jeff. There's really not a whole lot to it. I can hardly even take
Mashed
that
Potato
story seriously.
did note this moment where I said Tescriel is the new Gutenberg.
Thank you, chat.
I did move up into here. You had put in, I believe this was your addition, Jeff, the David Attenborough.
Oh, this is great.
AI clone.
So great.
And
so great.
So developer created a system and cloned David Attenborough. So he's the narrator that does all sorts of really compelling and engaging documentaries.
Nature.
And stuff.
Yeah, usually it's nature
stuff.
Yeah.
And so he did a model. He created a system that takes the model of David Attenborough's voice and mannerisms and everything, and combines that with a camera that looks at you and describes you as if you are a documentary. And I think we can play this because it's not on YouTube.
Yeah, I think
we're good.
It's just hilarious.
What happens when David Attenborough narrates your life?
So
On the
this
left,
guy.
I'm going to start my camera, which every 5 seconds takes a photo.
He's a young geeky guy with curly hair and
On the right,
glasses.
I'm going to start
Beard.
David Attenborough.
David is watching.
And now, as I move around,
Here we have a remarkable specimen of Homo sapiens, distinguished by his silver circular spectacles and a mane of tousled curly locks. He is wearing what appears to be a blue fabric covering, which can only be assumed to be part of his mating display.
Dude.
At the subtle arch of his eyebrow. It's as if he's in the midst of an intricate ritual of curiosity.
I mean, I think we all want this, right? Isn't this
I think we need this for the show. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
my.
Oh yeah.
But okay, that was a random comment that you threw out there, Paris. But what that did for me is that made me realize, like, holy cow, like that was a convincing replica of David Attenborough.
Yeah.
And it did a really great job of recognizing what was on the screen and explaining it in a compelling way. Like I could actually listen to a book, like an audiobook like that.
Yeah.
And just makes me wonder, like, okay, so then if that's right around the corner, maybe someday we will have virtual Leo sitting here at the set.
I was going to say, we've got 47 years
Don't
of
say that
Leo
loud.
to
Don't
plug
say that
into
too
the Leo
loudly.
GPT. We could get that going by the time he gets back.
It's gonna happen.
And he's going to come back all mellow and quiet after having been, quiet for a week or whatever.
We could just, get Leo in there.
Oh,
Speaking of audiobooks,
Yes.
Gutenberg parenthesis audiobook is out on December 7.
all right.
Oh,
Congratulations.
Woo!
Excellent. Add that to
I
my.
talk slowly for a long time.
Did they keep telling you to slow down when you were reading?
Oh yeah.
Really? Wow.
I can only imagine with that. Like that's got to be an experience that's, I suppose, rewarding when you're done, but pure hell while you're doing
torture.
it.
Oh, it's torture. And torture for the poor producer having to do with me.
Having to edit around things. And, that wouldn't be an enjoyable audio editing experience. I wouldn't imagine.
We just heard the convincing Attenborough, though. Like, they can't do that with AI yet. I mean, come on.
They are doing
right?
that. They are doing some audiobooks with AI. I've been pitched on one, and there's a guy I know that does audiobooks for different authors, and he's lost some gigs because AI has been popping in and doing some books.
Yeah. I've definitely heard stories about that as well.
I think there's going to be I saw at a Bertelsmann investment conference about a month or two ago how Hollywood is starting to use this stuff too, and they're getting adjustment tools, so you can change the voice based on kind of the dramatic needs or the comedic needs.
Right.
And so I think we're going to end up with, I might have said this in the show before, with markup languages like that. Here's the text, and then you add in instructions to the AI voice so that it can, and if you go, I'm sorry, it's Gutenberg moment here. If you go back long ago, drink, have a good old
Thank
drink
you.
Gutenberg.
You guys should be real drunk by now. Yeah.
Yeah. So back long ago, punctuation was not about meaning. It was about timing. That a comma and a period and so on and a dash had meant some timing because it was all meant to be read out loud.
I see.
Wow.
So in a sense, punctuation was the first markup language for audio.
Yeah. Oh, that's so interesting. Emphasis gives you the emphasis for your syllable.
Of the right syllable. Oh, but your father said that too?
I don't know where I got that. Somewhere.
That's how I got it from my father. Yep.
Emphasis syllable. Yeah, somewhere along the line. I don't think it was my dad though, but yeah. Okay. Well, with that, let's check out the little miniature Google changelog.
The Google changelog.
Because I did look. I just found like a couple. There really wasn't a whole lot out there, It's just one of those Google weeks. Slides, Google Slides, getting a recording tool built into the app. So you're going to find a little record button at the bottom, at the right of the toolbar, and you have a 30-minute limit. So when you've got a slide presentation, you can actually record the presentation, I guess, and play it back.
Aren't there tons of tools that let you do this?
Probably.
Recorders?
But not on Google until now.
Not integrated into Google's
excuse
products. So now it's integrated. So you don't have to go with all those other ones out there. It's right there, right where you are. This is pretty interesting. Google is going to begin to delete old accounts. So if you have an old Google account that I think if you haven't logged into it since 2019, I think I read that's where it kind of starts. You'll want to do it because early December, starting December 1st, Google will begin to delete some of those old accounts if you haven't logged in.
That's all you have to do to log in? Is that all you got to do?
Yeah, that's my understanding is you just want to, and then set yourself a reminder to log in once. I think it's every 2 years, but really just log in once a year. If you want to keep that. I mean, if you want to let it go, let it go.
It's Google Login Day, a national holiday.
We all a little bit of work for your free Google account.
And this isn't a surprise. Google has warned us about this for months now.
Yeah, we've known that this is going to happen eventually, but it's like right around the corner. So if you've not logged in on an account since 2021, so it's not 2019, it's 2021, it is at risk of being deleted. Once it's deleted, that email address, you cannot reclaim it, and nor can anyone else. That email address is, my understanding is like
out of the running. I don't think that was going to be the case originally, but I think I'm glad.
Yeah, I mean I don't know how you don't do that. If you don't do that, you end up with an ongoing stream of nightmares for Google and people getting a new Gmail account and then getting some sort of highly sensitive information emailed to it because it belonged to somebody else before, and the hijinks continue from there.
I have a quick question about that.
Yeah, what's up?
So does my phone pinging the email server, is that enough?
That's a good question.
If it is pinging, it should be because you're logged in.
Yeah, I suppose so.
But not everybody
that would assume
uses,
that you're actually logged in.
I don't do an actual poll on my Gmail. When I go into Gmail on my phone, I literally have to tell it, all right, now connect. But it's not a constant refresh kind of thing. But if it's constant refresh, you're logged in.
Yeah, so. I do this with a Google Voice number that I have that we have, and that incoming calls come sometimes, very rarely, but we never make outgoing calls and we never log into it. And I get, the email like once a year or whatever, like this Google Voice account is going to go away. And so I just have it in my calendar, and it's not enough to just log in. Like I'm unconvinced that that's going to be enough to save it. So I actually like send myself a text message.
Send a text.
And so maybe you do that with this too. Just like if you're continuously logged in, I don't know, if it was my account, I'd just go over to it real quick and send myself an email and be like, okay, now I know I did something. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And maybe it's unnecessary, but it would make me feel like better than if I hadn't. So yeah, .meme is a domain that exists apparently, or will exist. So if you have a meme and you want to put a .meme at the end of it, now you can. Yay.
Sure.
Thrilling.
Yeah, Google Registry just released this new TLD, and you can get it.
Miss Martineau, is this going to be you? You going to jump all over this one?
No, I won't.
You can meme yourself.
Labeling something as a meme,
it kind
of deflates the purpose.
You're so right. You're so right.
This is so unhip. Google, kill it now. Paris,
kill it now. Put it right in the.
Yeah, it'll be done next week.
Put it right in the graveyard.
This is where memes go to die.
Maybe Charlie bit my finger. Maybe instead of me having to go to YouTube and do a search for Charlie bit my finger, I just have charliebitmyfinger.meme, and that's all you ever need.
Okay, but all the people who would be searching for a URL for Charlie bit my finger in a year of our Lord 2023 will never understand what .meme is.
Yeah,
they're going to put .com every time.
Yeah, that's so true.
Good point.
Yeah. That's the challenge with all these new TLDs. It's like,
man,
everybody's going to automatically opt for .com. CharlieBitMyFinger.com. Does that actually exist? CharlieBitMyFinger.com. These are
they sold it as a
NFT at one point, right?
Thank you, NFT. But then people got so upset that they brought it back.
Oh, CharlieBitMyFinger.com is currently squatted. Somebody owns it, but they're just sitting on it. Just in case you wanted to know. A little opportunity for you. And finally, Google says it is looking into an issue that sees some users reporting that personal files that they had stored in their Google Drive account are disappearing from the cloud service.
This is a pretty big deal.
Yeah, I'd be super upset.
Yeah, it's not what you want.
Not what you expect. You certainly don't sign up for that as a feature. Apparently, this is related to their desktop app.
Oh boy.
And a Google Drive team member was telling users not to click disconnect account within the Google Drive for desktop, because that might actually make this happen. They also warned against deleting or moving the app data folder, which I think that makes sense. And make a backup copy. But anyways, Google knows.
Where do you
this.
back up?
Damn, this almost sounds like, okay, once you install this app, don't touch it. Never, ever do anything to
don't
it
move
or
anything.
you're ruined.
Don't move anything. Otherwise, poof. Because I think would the rationale be if you move that data and then you open and then the app goes to sync and realizes the data isn't there anymore, it's like, oh, they deleted it. We should remove it from the server. I'm just guessing. I don't know if that's...
I'm just thinking about people that may have like multiple users on their home computers.
Yeah.
And they may come in and just say, let me log out of the Google Drive from dad and log in as myself so I can put my stuff. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't know either. And that is the end of the Google changelog. That's it. With that, I don't know. We have reached the end of the Google changelog. I'm sure there's more. I'm sure Scooter X is YouTube launching more than 30 playables, little mini games for premium US users. There you go. Okay, let's take a break and thank the sponsor of this episode. And then when we get back, we will talk about some picks. I'm making a last minute pick adjustment. I had a pick and I'm removing it because I forgot. I have a really awesome pick to share with you all. That's coming up. It might actually be kind of controversial, actually, now that I think about it.
Oh, boy.
So now you're really going to wait, right? Now you're going to wait through the ad. This episode of This Week in Google is brought to you by HID Global. Leave the stress of tedious PKI management behind in 2023. And now, we're almost 2024. And stress less with complete certificate lifecycle automation from HID Global's PKI as a service model. With Google moving towards 90-day SSL certificates, don't get caught in a tough place. Automation is now, it's a must-have. And HID's model of automation does not require any additional hardware or software investment, no installs in order to automate the life cycles of your organization's certificates. For Google and Mac systems, HID's connector model of PKI uses open source certificate utilities. So your organization can use multiple operating systems, which happens to be really great for BYOD, bring your own device. Ease your procurement pains. With HID Global, you can get up and running in 2 weeks, and that's much quicker than its competitors. Their assistance with deployment always includes their incomparable white glove service, expertise, and knowledge. Plus, you'll receive ownership of private keys. HID takes care of your PKI so you can spend your holidays and weekends taking care of yourself, your family, and the things that matter to you outside of work. Visit hid.link/twig demo today. That's hid.link/twig demo. Thank you, HID Global, for your support of This Week in Google. Okay. We have picks coming up here. Paris, let's start with you because I'm super intrigued about Chicken Run.
I on Sunday went to go see the 2000 era cinematic masterpiece Chicken Run in theaters at Nighthawk Cinema in Williamsburg.
Nice.
For those that do not remember, this is the kind of stop motion claymation movie about a flock of chickens on a farm in England trying to escape. And honestly, it holds up. It is a phenomenal film. It
With
is
or without drugs?
Totally sober. It was noon
Wow.
on Sunday. I mean, it would have been better if I was a little high. I'm not going to say that's not true, but I was sober and it was fantastic. Honestly, it was an allegory for the petite bourgeoisie's inherent suspicion of the working class. You got two farmers who are really suspicious that their chickens are like unionizing kind of the whole time. It's great. Highly would recommend. It's also, I guess, topical. I found out recently because a new Chicken Run is coming out on the 15th. Chicken Run 2, Dawn of the Nugget.
Dawn of the Nugget.
So keep your eyes out for that.
Yeah. The team that made Chicken Run, became aware of them prior to Chicken Run. They were doing Wallace and Gromit shorts.
Yeah,
And,
Wallace and Gromit is fantastic.
Wallace and Gromit was great. I think that was before Chicken Run, or was it after Chicken Run?
Yeah, it was before Chicken Run.
Yeah, I thought so. Anyways, I just really appreciate and respect their ability to do stop motion like that. It's just really remarkable. And yeah, Chicken Run's fun. I like
My other pick of the week is a video game that isn't Baldur's Gate 3, believe it or not. It is called Pentiment, available on Steam, PC, Xbox. It is a really cool game that is set in 16th century Bavaria, and yes, Jeff, it is related to the dawn of the printing press. The animation is all wood. The animation is all wood blocks, and it is about kind of the dawn of early printing technology. You are an illustrator, this guy Andreas Mahler. You are there to, do your little illustrations at the local monastery, but then a murder happens, and you have to kind of like figure it out. But it's beautiful, and the recent, dawn of printing press technology plays a big role in the game, and all of the dialogue in the game, in addition to, being voiced and whatnot, they have it in old like wood block. They have it in various different fonts. It'll either be people who, characters that are more well read or knowledgeable might have actual printed letters like a printing press. Others might have handwritten of varying degrees of quality. It rules. It's a beautiful game, so interesting, and it ties into the Gutenberg press.
Oh my!
Amen. So here's the question: can I play it on my Chromebook?
If you have Steam downloaded,
Steam and Android. Is there Steam and Android?
Steam and Android?
Yeah.
Can you get Steam on a Chromebook?
If you can run Android apps, you probably can.
Yeah, I can run Android apps.
Then do it and play it. You'd love it, Jeff. It's honestly really fun.
Oh my gosh!
Ooh. And you can report back on its historical accuracy.
It is incredibly historically accurate. They had teams of researchers. Yeah, it's actually incredible. They have teams of researchers. They have citations at the end of the game if you want to go through for any of the historical accuracy of this part of Bavaria at this time. It's really great.
Wow.
I want to get on stage at Gutenberg the Musical so I can say exactly how everything in the musical is wrong.
I think I would go over really well.
I think so too.
Kind of like after a presidential speech, then the opposing party goes on afterwards and gives their statement. That's what I envision you doing, Jeff, after that.
Yeah.
All right. I love it. Great picks. Jeff, what do you got?
Okay, well, I had crap, so I'm going to go up and steal something that I had before. Which we do sometimes, folks. I want to mention real quickly, Jezebel got bought by Paste Magazine. The fact that it was killed was an awful thing by Geo Media. They're going to be hiring people. Who knows whether it lives again in its glory of the past, but it shouldn't.
Notably, Paste also bought Splinter, which is the politics website of Geo Media that had been, shuttered for years, and they're going to restart that before 2024.
In other magazine news, Popular Science is no longer going to be in print, and so it means it's good timing for my magazine book.
There you go.
An elegy to the form of the magazine. And then finally, I want to give credit, because so often I wrote a whole book about the moral panic and stupidity of coverage of the internet. The Washington Post, between Taylor Lorenz and Drew Harrell and Shira Ovid, I'm guessing, do good work. And Shira had a good story this week saying name drop is safe. The fear mongering about it is not. Mm-hmm. And so just calming people down when people come out with these fear stories that, oh my God, name drop is terrible and it's going to be bad things are going to happen. And to come in and do the reporting and say, no, folks, here's how this actually works, I think is a wonderful thing. Now, I don't know whether Steve agrees or not, but I was just glad to see some sane, calm reporting.
Nice. Excellent. Thank you, Jeff. Ant, what you got?
I forgot what mine was. Had to go look.
That's what happens when you get old. You start wearing your glasses down your nose. You just
pull those down at the tip of your nose.
Boy, I tell you, in my day. My pick, I got two. One of them is, as I've mentioned before, I watch a lot of YouTube as part of my quote unquote television. And this time it recommended something to me totally out of the blue that was, again, quite awesome. City Nerd on YouTube channel, has a YouTube channel. It's called City Nerd. And it's so daggum fascinating, sans the bridge talk, because I know that's not for you, Mr. Jarvis.
Nuh-uh.
But he goes around from town to town, basically just taking a look at how cities are laid out from a pedestrian standpoint, as well as just how is the city's infrastructure doing for the climate and ecology and so forth.
Does he travel to them?
Not too often. He now lives in Vegas. But he's really
something about his taste in cities.
he's in Henderson, but he's really big on just walking everywhere, riding his bike everywhere, and then he looks at public transit options and how good they are in this city versus that city, and he does a pretty deep dive into different laws and bills and whatnot that came up based on the states, and it can get pretty nerdy, but it was interesting. And it's just City Nerd, and he has a really, really dry delivery, but I dig it. It's just matter of fact, to the point kind of thing, you know. And lastly, I want to give a shout out to my nephew. Some of you may not know this. I think some folks here in the studio know, but my nephew, he is back home in Carolina, and he was named the Region's Defensive Player of the Year at my old high school, and just happy for him. And it's good to see this because he was this close to moving over here with me. I tried to talk my sister into it because he had his moments of being a bit of a jerk of a kid. And and I about drafted him and brought him out here to stay for a year and a half and to try to get him back on the up and up, if you will. And right there sort of proves that he's got the resolve and the will to get on the straight and narrow. And I'm very, very proud of my OJ nephew. That's what I call him, OJ. So shout out to you, OJ.
Right on. Nice. That's cool. And City Nerd on YouTube. I just love how they're literally like, there is a person who is passionate about every single thing that is possible. And has figured out how to like create hundreds of hours of videos about that specific thing and find their audience for it.
I don't know how many videos I've watched, and they're 15, 20 minutes long each, you know, and I've watched a ton of them over this weekend, and it's just various information about public transit, and this town has a better walkability score versus Petaluma does, you know, it's stuff like that. And I'm like, okay, I get it. Yeah. Considering colleges and whatnot, you know, because if you go to college, are you going to be walking everywhere, or are you going to be forced to drive everywhere?
Totally.
And he looks at all of that stuff. It's pretty interesting.
Interesting. Thank you. I'm like on the fence on this one. I'm like, God, dude.
Okay, you've hyped it up so much. You gotta go for it.
I have to because I mentioned it. So I came across like a month or a month and a half ago a Reddit thread that mentions something about YouTube ads and Albania, and how if you set your VPN to Albania and you go to YouTube and you play anything and you don't have a YouTube premium account, you won't see any ads. So I'm torn on sharing.
No one's targeting people in Albania.
Albania apparently has a restriction on against ads in YouTube, and they're not alone. It's Albania, Moldova, Myanmar, Ethiopia. If you have a VPN that has a location that you can set in any one of those countries, and then you go to YouTube or you go to Twitch and you watch content, you will not be served ads.
Wow.
And Bard, however, is going to speak to you in Albanian for
Yeah, right. I suppose that might happen. But anyways, I just thought it was really interesting. And I know, you know, like I feel weird sharing that because like we are ad supported, and yet I know
hold on, Mr. Howell. We are ad supported by outstanding sponsors, not that crazy banner crap that shows up on web pages
Yeah, I mean,
that annoy
it's
things.
different, but still, it kind of feels a little hypocritical to talk about, ways that you can block ads. But I think it's interesting because I've heard many people, protest and cry about the fact that YouTube's blocking ad blockers now and blah, blah. But meanwhile, I learned about this a month and a half ago. I'm like, well, you don't really need an ad blocker. This actually works. But anyways,
that's fascinating.
It's interesting. What I want is to know more about the why.
Yeah, why?
I want to know why in those 4 places, if you have, or if you're traveling there, you won't see ads in Twitch and YouTube and everything. It's just really interesting kind of factoid.
I think it's likely that Google just doesn't do business there, right?
Yeah.
So they just don't have ads there.
Well, and I know that's hurtful for if there's a creator in Albania, they're not going to be able to monetize their videos, So it also has a damaging effect.
They can still
there.
bake in their ads.
Well, that's true. So anyways, there's a little tip for you. Some people will appreciate it. And some people will be like, why did you just share that? But I think it's interesting. And that is the end of this episode of This Week in Google. Always a lot of fun. I'm so happy and feel, I don't know. I really look forward to the opportunities to sit in this chair when Leo is away. I enjoy joining you all and talking about some Google and all sorts of other things.
It is pretty cool that you're sitting in that chair because it makes this table much more comfortable. It's like, wow.
Yeah. We've got to trap Leo in the mountains more often.
Put him on a technology reprieve more often. Yeah, I'm super curious to hear what he has to say when he comes back.
Yeah, me too.
Do you think he's going to come back a changed man? Or do you think he'll be like, I was bored the whole time? I would be bored.
Jammer B says no to being changed and yes to being bored.
Yeah, I think a little.
I trust
of both.
Jammer B.
I think a little of both. I actually did the thing that he's at right now.
And your thoughts?
Oh, how was it then? You're speaking like you don't know what we're talking about. You're an expert.
I did it 5 years ago. It was amazing. It literally changed my life.
I would love to do it. Because I enjoy just doing staycations. Yeah. And kicking everybody out and just being able to have that sensory deprivation is I totally dig that.
Yeah.
It's just sensory deprivation.
I mean, it's not the kind of experience where he's in a room, a vacuum of a room and his devices aren't there. And that's the extent of the week. You are challenged. It is a very challenging week. And the not having technology is day one. That's just day one. And then the entire week that you're there, you're doing a lot of really hard work. But yeah, it was incredible. I highly recommend it.
Man.
And I also understand the skepticism around it because not a lot of people choose to do that. Not a lot of people choose to say, I'm going to go there and take a look at my life and identify the things that work for me and identify the things that don't and then make changes around it. Not everybody's going to do that. Yeah. But if you can and you do, it's really wonderful. So I'm super curious to hear when he comes back to hear what he got out of it because I got an insane amount out of it.
Much respect.
So, yeah. Anyways, I didn't know I was going to go there. Thank you, everybody. Paris, thank you so much. I love doing this podcast and I really had a great time podcasting with you today. Thank you.
Thank you. Likewise.
Yeah. Is there anything you want to share with people? I know the information is where people can follow your work and everything.
I don't know. Read my stuff. Follow me on Twitter or Blue Sky at paris.nyc on Blue Sky and at Paris Martineau on Twitter.
Yeah. There you go. Thank you, Paris. And Jeff, of course, always a lot of fun hanging out with you here. We get to hang out again tomorrow on AI Inside in Club Twit. And what do you want to plug? Looks like the Gutenberg parenthesis and magazine.
Gutenberg parenthesis out in audio next week on the 7th, and magazine with a really cute cover, much shorter, quick, fun read about magazines just as they die around us. Gutenberg parenthesis.com, and you get discounts to both.
Right on. Thank you, Jeff. And I'll see you tomorrow. We'll actually have Reed Albergotti is going to be on AI Inside tomorrow to talk all about OpenAI. So we got lots of fun stuff to talk about. Ann Pruitt, thank you for sitting here in person next to me. What do you want to point people to?
Go check out, I normally say antpruitt.com/prints, but this time I'll say antpruitt.com/puzzles.
Oh,
so
what's that?
If you go there, you can get puzzle versions of some of my photography.
Oh, that's cool.
So go check it out.
It's a great idea.
Could be a good gift, and something you can put up on the wall still. Some of my
the one on the far right looks like it would probably be kind of challenging.
Yeah, that one is going to be challenging to you because it's not a lot of detail there. That's me taking a photo of the Milky Way, and antpruitt.com/puzzles.
Love it.
And tell everybody else.
Right on. Cool. Thank you, John. Thank you, Benito, here in studio. I created a site called raygun.fun. So go there.
Oh, yeah.
It has all the different
right.
ways that you can find me online. It's just easier to say that than all the different social networks and stuff. But also doing Tech News Weekly with Micah Sargent tomorrow. And then shortly after that, AI Inside with Jeff Jarvis. So we'll be recording that live, of course, through YouTube if you aren't a Club Twit member. And if you aren't a Club Twit member, well, you really should be. $7 a month, twit.tv/clubtwit. You get access to the Discord, so you do get access to all the live recordings of our shows, which you can get to that through YouTube if you're not a club member, but you also get pre and post show stuff. You get bonus content. You get shows that you don't get outside of the club, like AI Inside, Hands on Windows, Hands on Mac, the Untitled Linux Show. I mean, we've just got so many. It would be, there's just a lot waiting for you there. You get access to the Discord,
the book club,
the
bonus feed's got all kinds of stuff in there. There's a couple fireside
chats and AMAs and
lots of fun.
Yeah, it really is great. And Ant's been really doing such a great job of wrangling that service and keeping it active and keeping people engaged and the Discord. So anyway, $7 a month, twit.tv/clubtwit. And I think probably more than that, because it's all really great, but you are supporting us directly when you go into the club. And let me just tell you right now, that comes in really handy. That's instrumental to us at this moment in time. So thank you for that. As for this show, twit.tv/twig, TWIG, that'll take you to our show page on the web where you can subscribe to the show in all different kinds of formats. We actually do record this live every Wednesday, 5 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Pacific, 2200 UTC. And so you'll get it in your feed later in the evening when you subscribe, and it automatically downloads for you. I hope that's what's happening for you.
Hit auto download. Yeah,
make sure that it's doing that. Anyways, thank you so much for hanging out with us for the last couple hours. And Leo will be back next week. We'll see you next time on This Week in Google. Bye, everybody.
Hey there, Scott Wilkinson here. In case you hadn't heard, Home Theater Geeks is back. Each week, I bring you the latest audio-video news, tips and tricks to get the most out of your AV system, product reviews, and more. You can enjoy Home Theater Geeks only if you're a member of Club Twit, which costs $7 a month, or you can subscribe to Home Theater Geeks by itself for only $2.99 a month. I hope you'll join me for a weekly dose of Home Theater Geekitude.